This is NXT superstar Dexter Loomis, and I want you to do me a favor. Check out Good Mic Work commentaries on YouTube. Listen to the podcast, subscribe. And if you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
I hope y'all is ready for 3 straight days of Good Mic Work commentaries. What's going on, everyone? Happy Saturday to you. Welcome to the July 18th, 2020 edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast. I would like to come up here and say we have a loaded, jam-packed episode this week, but we really don't. If it's going to be a loaded episode, we're going to have to make it loaded and do that ourselves because I've got light wrestling news. We're going to discuss this past week TV. We're going to talk about the ratings. We got a lot of title matches to discuss. And we've got Extreme Rules, the horror show at Extreme Rules coming up tomorrow that I'm going to be up here live reacting to. And I'm going to give you my full predictions for the entire pay-per-view at the end of the podcast here. And that's kind of it. So it's not like we got tons and tons of stuff to get into here, but there should be enough going on to make a pretty meaningful episode. I have got the day off today, so normally whenever I have a Saturday off, I usually come up later for the Winged Eagle podcast, but I did not want to go head-to-head with a Slammiversary pay-per-view. Impact's got their big Slammiversary show coming up tonight. I apologize for sucking, keeping track of Impact, aside from Moose and Tommy Dreamer, and a whole bunch of like mystery opponents, open challenges, and things like that. Slammiversary is set up tonight to have some pretty big things go down, and a lot of familiar faces making their returns, including Gallows and Anderson, who have officially now signed with Impact. I'm sure they'll be appearing tonight. We could see EC3 there. Aces and Eights, all sorts of great stuff could be taking place at Slammiversary tonight if you are an Impact fan. I will try my best to keep tabs on that show tonight. Maybe we'll discuss it a little bit tomorrow, but I'm not going to run through, predictions or anything like that because I really don't watch Impact. And apparently, according to many of you, I should, because Impact is probably more tolerable now than it has ever been. Back in the day, I started this channel really hating on TNA, but I have no reason to have any issue with them now. Don't want to wish them nothing but the best. So I'm hoping the fans can be treated to a nice pay-per-view tonight, and best of luck to everybody involved there. But I did not want to go head-to-head with that and make you guys have to choose, and of course I didn't want to screw up Impact's buy rate or their ratings with my podcast, completely wiping their audience out. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm kidding. If there's one thing this channel is not doing lately, it's lighting the world on fire, as was apparent this past Thursday. I want to thank everybody who joined us on Thursday for a really fun Patreon-sponsored live stream discussing the old territory days. We had a slight hiccup. I think somebody had flagged the video or something happened, some glitch in YouTube, and the video got briefly flagged and taken down. I immediately got reinstated, but we had to set up a second stream to continue right after that. So if for any reason that happens here in this podcast and we get cut off for whatever reason, just go right to my channel, give it 5 minutes. I'll have a brand new link and a brand new stream right up, and we'll continue on. But hopefully, knock on my desk, we won't have any issues in this episode. But like I said, we're going to talk about wrestling news. We got a lot to discuss as far as AEW and NXT this week, and last night's Smackdown, and tomorrow's horror show is looking interesting, and I've got all my predictions set for that, and I feel like I've got a good handle on what's going on. So it should be some fun discussions here this afternoon. Hopefully we'll have a decent audience. I don't know. I'm a little worried about the channel right now, to be honest with you. But I think that's going through all of YouTube. I've been eyeballing some of my colleagues, and none of us are setting the world on fire in terms of views. So I guess I'm not alone. It's just disheartening, when things used to be so awesome, here on the channel. And it feels like lately wrestling just isn't a priority. But we're always positive on this channel. We always keep plugging along, keep moving forward, and we're going to have a good episode today. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Who was it that had the birthday? I just saw it earlier, and now I forgot your name. Bradley Matthews. I want to wish you a happy birthday. Good to see you in here, man. And thanks to all of you who are here already. Bruce, you had some very good things to say about Slammiversary. Looks like you'll be checking that out tonight, and I'm going to do my best to get a look at that myself. George Morris, I appreciate the $2 flying in right away. Thank you very much for the super chat. How is it going? What is new? Not much. Not much is new other than the fact that I'm off the next 3 days to hang out with you guys. I got tonight off at the last minute, which is great because I really need to heal my zits on my face. You can't even tell on camera, but wearing the mask is starting to take its toll on my skin a little bit, and I had to buy Stridex the other day. Remember the Stridex pads? I have never bought those in my life. I'm in my 40s. Never bought them in high school. Never bought them when I was a kid. Even when they were sponsoring all of the WWE pay-per-views back in the 90s. Still never bought those things. The only experience I had with Stridex pads is having to avoid them in the castles of Mario 3. You know how they'd fly after you and shit? So I bought some of those the other day to try to wipe on my face. And my left eye is a little bit swollen as well. And again, none of this can really be seen on camera, which is good, but I'm kind of a mess right now, so I need a day to just relax and figure out what the hell's going on with my noodle. But I'm happy to be here, and we're going to make it fun 72 hours here on the channel. Like I said, you're getting me right now. You're going to get me tomorrow for the Extreme Rules Horror Show main card, so as soon as the pay-per-view goes live on the WWE Network, I'll be up here live on the YouTube channel reacting to it, and then on Monday, as we've been doing every Monday for the past couple of years now, I'll be up immediately after the show for a full review. So a whole lot of me. Get ready. Get ready to take me in. Who's the next super chat that I missed? Oh, George, another one from you. Thank you for $2 more. I just bought 2 new TVs, Samsung 55-inch and 43-inch. Nice. I hope you got like a deal for getting 2. That's pretty nice. Do I have Samsungs in the house? I used to. I don't currently. I got LGs all over the place. But Samsungs are good stuff, man. And they're so affordable now. You can get these nice, sweet-ass TVs, and, you know, it's not like back in the day. So congrats, George. Enjoy the TVs. I hope you're watching me on one of those TVs as well. And good to see you, Chat Site, and Ryan Stone Cold, and Michael Cuomo. Madeline, good to see you as well. William and Bruce and Chris and Maka and Ben. All right, we got a good audience in here. First of all, before we get into the very, very light wrestling news, I want to, number one, make sure you can hear me and shout out the patrons. All right, there I am. I can hear my own voice. That's good. Let's shout all the patrons out right now for keeping this channel possible. I want to thank Antoine Daniels, who is a new Patreon supporter, and he's got a video coming up in August, so keep a lookout for that. Dre Leggett, of course. Dre was the guy that we did the stream for on Thursday, the Territory stream, which was a lot of fun. But like I said, audience was kind of low. A lot of that stuff might not interest my whole audience, but it sure was a blast reliving that stuff and really talking about it. So thanks again to you, Dre, for sponsoring that. It was fun. Alan Carter, thank you as well. Daniel Rodriguez, Scotty Cura, Brandon Yelverton, Alex Reynolds, Scott Moss, Michael Tong, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson. Good to see you. K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, I'm sure you'll be here as well. Steven Myers, the Double Z TV, Claudio Clavedetcher, John Reddifer, Jordan Carg, Barry MK400, John Riffle, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve, Domanian Elwell Sr., Michael Cuomo, just shouted you out a second ago as well, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Nathan Walker, and Blake Moran. Thank you guys, as always, for all your help and all of your support. I appreciate it very, very much. And we've got Devlin. Speak of the Devlin. Thanks for the $5, brother. Appreciate it. Giving tomorrow's pay-per-view a skip. Wow. I am not invested in main roster WWE at all. Normally, you know, prior to Extreme Rules, the card being announced, I would have wanted to skip this one too, but just bumped the desk. But I am slightly interested in it tomorrow. I ain't gonna lie. And maybe, you know, we'll be surprised. I think WWE's got enough wacky shit on tap for tomorrow that maybe it won't suck. So if you change your mind and you don't maybe want to watch the pay-per-view, but you just want to watch me react, that might even be more fun. So think about it tomorrow, Devlin. Maybe we'll see you. Maybe we won't. Let me get into the wrestling news first because, like I said, I don't really have anything to talk about at all in terms of wrestling news, but I wanted to mention Impact's Slammiversary show tonight because Gallows and Anderson have officially signed with Impact. They released that on social media, and everybody was kind of expecting that. But there was some other talk of Gallows and Anderson going to AEW, and apparently there was a deal that was about set with the two of them that fell through and even got them some funny-ass heat with some AEW guys, namely Chris Jericho. And there's also some leftover remnants of heat in WWE with AJ Styles and Paul Heyman and that whole debacle. So I'm really glad to see that Gallows and Anderson have secured a contract. They seem like they're doing fine, and hopefully they'll make a big splash in Impact. It would have been cool to see them in AEW, but as good as their tag team division is, you know, do you think Gallows and Anderson would have, you know, potentially had the same issues there that they did in WWE, just being, you know, are surrounded by so many great teams? Is there going to be an opportunity for them? They might make, like I said, a bigger impact, no pun intended, with Impact than they would have in AEW. And as far as the Heyman and AJ stuff, that's a really weird story for those of you who've been reading up on that. AJ was moved over to the Smackdown brand. Apparently there was issues with Paul Heyman. AJ called him a bold-faced liar outright, and which is no surprise. I was surprised to see how much traction that was actually getting online with that story, because Paul Heyman being called a liar is like the sky being called blue. Like, of course, Paul Heyman, that's what he does. He's a notorious, legendary liar. He's lied his whole life. The only reason ECW survived as long as it did is because he bullshitted his way through everything. So Paul Heyman, blowing smoke up someone's ass is nothing new, and Paul Heyman being in the position that he was in prior to being relieved of those duties on Monday Night Raw, he probably did have to just straight up lie to the talent sometimes. That's just what you have to do. So I kind of found it funny that everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe Heyman would do AJ like that. I'm like, that's Heyman. That's what he does. But it's a shame that all of that happened, because I think AJ partially blamed Paul Heyman for Gallows and Anderson being let go. Those are his boys. AJ felt guilty about it. He even convinced, I think, Gallows and Anderson to try to stick around when they had re-signed at that one point. It'd be good for us. We're better off here. We're more secure here. We'll make a lot of money and shit like that. And when they got let go, it's like Heyman and Vince kind of pointed the finger at each other. Vince even said to AJ, according to AJ, that Heyman said he thinks maybe they should be let go, or pointed out how much money they were making, and they were lumped into all the talents that were released. So, when you're dealing with friends and you're dealing with people that are close to you, and they get let go, and you have to stay working in a job, working with the very same people that let your friends go, I can understand it probably gets a little bit weird from time to time. I don't think AJ, Gallows, and Anderson have heat with themselves. They're still boys. AJ just feels bad that his friends got screwed over, and he didn't have enough pull to kind of save them, type of thing. And it caused a rift between him and Paul Heyman. AJ doesn't like him, doesn't get along with him. Now he's over on the Smackdown brand to get away from him, but, Heyman's not even in that role anymore anyway. So, I don't know. It's probably pretty awkward because, regardless of what show you're on, it's not like it was prior to the pandemic. It's not like you're on the road with the SmackDown crew. Everything is at the PC. So even though you're not on the same show as Heyman, you're still seeing Heyman all the time. So I'm sure catering is awkward. Speaking of people leaving WWE, I encourage you to check out some of the videos on some recently released WWE stars. Heath Slater released like a 3-minute video or something on his Instagram, kind of like a post WWE teaser video, culminating with him getting his wake-up call at the end, laying in the bed in the hotel room. That was kind of cool. Looks like he's planning for a life after WWE. He's working hard. Lots of footage of him, training and working out and, getting jacked, because he looked great. He looked great on Raw a couple of weeks ago when he came out there against McIntyre. I'm like, damn, Heath put on 15 pounds of muscle, it looked like, and he looked like he was ready to rock and roll. So we all love Heath Slater. Whatever he goes on to do now, if he turns up on Dynamite, if he turns up tonight, or if he goes to Impact or whatever, we wish him the best. We all love Heath Slater. No Way Jose has got a video out too. Looks like he's trying to move on after WWE life. And I always shit on No Way Jose a lot when he was on TV, not because of him personally, just because of the silly, stupid gimmick that has nowhere to go. I mean, it's not him, it's WWE. That feels like they have to have these silly, dumb gimmicks, and the poor schmuck that's stuck with this gimmick, like I said, No Way Jose can never main event WrestleMania. That can never happen. I don't care how over he gets. It's not going to happen. That gimmick is not, there's a ceiling there, So if I was a wrestler and I'd been working hard, going to wrestling school, training, working out, dedicating my life to my craft, and I get to WWE and they put me in a gimmick like that, I would be very depressed. So I'm almost happy in a way that he got released. Sorry at the loss of paycheck, but almost happier for his career. He's kind of got a new look now. He's deeming himself as essential, and he's trying to create a new gimmick for wherever he goes after WWE. But aside from being on TV, in Impact or in AEW, there's really no independent wrestling right now. So what is there for him to do? I mean, I think a couple of people are running some shows, a couple of outfits, but with the COVID stuff, it's like I feel horrible for these guys that they can't go, immediately make an impact somewhere else. They're kind of handcuffed with how much they can do, but he's making an effort, and we wish him the best too. And EC3, one thing that I noticed a common theme with all three of those guys is this desire to control the narrative of of who they are, what happened to them in WWE, and what they're going to do in the future. And that seemed to be the main motivation of all three of these guys. And EC3 had a hour-long interview with Sean Ross Sapp. You can check that out on Fightful's YouTube channel. and it's really good. And he offers a lot of, kind of insight into his WWE situation and his contract and being let go and what he has planned and what he wants to do. And would be cool to see him turn back up in Impact as well. I mean, what a waste. He finally, he was in NXT, left, made a name for himself as the EC3 character. WWE lured him away, and for about 5.5 minutes, it looked like they cared. I remember being really impressed with him during that North American title ladder match, that multi-man match they had a couple of years ago. Was that the one that they crowned the champion? I think a lot of us were even predicting EC3 in that match, and he didn't win, but I just thought he was impressive, and I was like, wow, he's going to do great in NXT. A lot of us thought that he could be like the counterpart to The Miz and could potentially be a huge star, and the exact opposite of that happened. They literally never did anything with him. They completely wasted his time, wasted their money, and it was awful. So now that he's the hell away from there, hopefully he'll never return to WWE, and we can see success for EC3 in the future. You certainly want that for him. It's just a shame how he was treated and handled there. Complete, absolute mess. The only other piece of wrestling news I really want to mention, it kind of ties into Monday Night Raw, and that is Brock Lesnar. And we've been talking about Brock for the past couple of weeks on the Raw reviews and stuff as it relates to Drew McIntyre, because Drew's got a big match tomorrow with Dolph Ziggler, but let's be real. Is Drew dropping the title tomorrow? No, he's not. So he's going to have an opponent for SummerSlam. And a lot of us were speculating that it could be Brock. Brock could be brought back in. But given the momentum of Randy Orton now on TV, Orton has got to be the guy. I mean, he's doing the best work of his career, arguably, right now. And he's one of the more entertaining stars they have in the company, of everybody right now, because they are so short-staffed and they have a very thin roster. A lot of guys are missing. A lot of pieces are missing. And his program with Edge was phenomenal, and he seems like he's the likely guy now to challenge Drew McIntyre. He's got a match Monday, unsanctioned match with the Big Show that I'm sure will squash that whole deal and will hopefully send him now on a trajectory towards McIntyre at SummerSlam. But in terms of Brock, it looks like, according to Meltzer and The Observer anyway, he's claiming that Brock isn't going to be back for quite some time, and I really, really hope Meltzer is right on this, because I have no desire to see Brock back when there's no fans. You know what I mean? I think WWE should just, they really need to write off this year. I know they need to, you still need to try. Sometimes it looks like they don't try, but you still need to produce TV, and you still need to provide quality entertainment, I suppose, every single week. But you also have to know, with the COVID stuff, this year is just a total loss. Fans aren't going to be back in the arena for quite some time. The SummerSlam will most definitely be at the PC, so will several pay-per-views and Raws and Smackdowns after that. And there's a really good chance that WrestleMania here in LA next year won't even happen here. It's either going to be also at the PC, or maybe, since Florida is stupid, it's the only place that can do anything right now, or doesn't have any serious restrictions. Maybe they could give Tampa WrestleMania next year and postpone LA one more year. I don't know, but it doesn't look like fans are coming back anytime soon, and Brock won't be either. And honestly, that's the way it should be. Brock should be in front of an audience. Brock is a draw. Brock is an attraction. And to see him there in the PC, standing next to Heyman, just cutting promos and having time, that's not going to do anything really to affect the ratings that dramatically, I wouldn't think. And if you have to pay Brock per appearance and, in the terms of his deal and everything, I would just hold him off. Unless you're desperate, unless you need him, unless, Vince freaks out or, loses his mind or something about some really bad ratings and thinks it's because Brock's not there, and brings him back and says, here's your belt back again for the 100th time, barring any sort of crazy knee-jerk reaction by Vince, I think Brock should stay off of TV, and I'm sure Brock wouldn't argue with this. I think Brock should stay off of TV until the fans come back, even if that's close to a year from now. I think it would be a nice break from Brock, because I've always liked Brock. The fans were so tired of him being champion. Even I got a little bit annoyed with it, but at the end of the day, I was still a really big Brock fan. I think Brock's good for wrestling. He's credible. He's awesome. He's an ass kicker. He's believable. He's everything you would really want in a pro wrestler. But fans, they get bored easily, and they get worn out easily. So when WWE constantly goes back to the Brock putting the title on him, even after he loses clean, and then they go right back to him again, started getting under the fans' skin a little bit. And I think fans were kind of over Brock, where I've always appreciated Brock. But even I'll admit that a year off from Brock might not be a bad thing, especially when he returns. And, had we gotten a handle on the pandemic sooner, had fans been let back in the arena back in June, like maybe we initially thought, oh, this will just be a 3-month deal. Now we're talking about maybe a 1 to 3 year deal for how long this is actually going to take to, snuff out. But if it would have gone the way we wanted it to, and fans would have been back in the arena by now, I think Brock would have been back. I think Brock would have been back to drop another match to Drew, just so McIntyre can beat him in front of an audience. And I think that probably would have happened at SummerSlam. But now, with everything the way it is, leave him off TV. Keep him off TV until 2021. Bring him back at WrestleMania next year. Have him show up at the Rumble if we are able to get a Royal Rumble. But none of that is guaranteed. None of that is guaranteed at all. I'm not sure if we're going to get a Survivor Series or a Rumble or a WrestleMania as planned. And according to some of the reports I was reading up on the WrestleMania stuff, it does look like WWE wants a decision on that, which is good for me because if it's in LA, I plan to go. And I got a lot of other personal stuff tying into WrestleMania, including a family trip to Hawaii. So I kind of need to know ahead of time if WrestleMania is going to happen or not. I got to figure this out. I can't just decide a few weeks prior. So apparently WWE doesn't want to wait until the last minute either. And they're hoping to get some sort of clear decision on whether or not WrestleMania will be possible by the end of the year, by December. And I can live with that. If they make a decision by December, if it's happening, that will really help me. But my gut instinct is telling me that I will yet again miss another WrestleMania after purposely skipping the last couple and not making the trip because I knew it was coming here. How ironic that this one's probably going to get fucked up too. And my streak continues. I have not been able to make it to a WrestleMania since 1999 at WrestleMania 15. So one of these years, when we get life back to normal, I will be there, and we will all hang out, and it'll be a kick-ass time. But until then, I just don't know. So we'll be monitoring that situation, but as it looks right now, WrestleMania 36 and 37 might go down as two of the most disappointing in history, all because of the situation that we're in. So aside from that stuff, I don't have anything really worth mentioning, newsworthy. If I really dug, I could find some stories to talk about, but nothing that I thought would really interest any of you. So that's all I really have for the wrestling news. Unless there's some sort of a big story that I'm missing that you want me to discuss, hit me with it in the comments here. Otherwise, that'll pretty much wrap it up for the news. And listen to Mr. E. Smash that thumbs up button for me, would you? And help us out. Get those likes up for the channel. I would very, very much appreciate that. Good to see you, Chris Miner. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate it. Favorite Extreme Rules pay-per-view match? Oh, God. I wouldn't even be able to think of any of those. Punk Jericho 2012 is mine. That one I actually do remember. That is good. Hope you're safe. It's horrible here in Florida, especially working at reopening Disney World. I know, and Disney World is there and reopening, and my God. At least a lot of that stuff is outside. I loved what they had at the New Japan show. They had about 3,000 fans there. Every one of them were wearing masks. They were all social distancing. They behaved. Nobody was freaking out or worried about their stupid rights being threatened. All the fans there behaved and were safe and adhered to the restrictions. And even they had like some, they were instructing the crowd not to cheer too loud, just so you're not like expelling so much, virus into the air, I suppose. So even they had that, a good handle on that. So unfortunately, Florida is never going to have it that together, but at least most of Disney World is outside unless you're inside on one of the rides. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. This whole thing just sucks. But best of luck to you, Chris, down there. I hope you remain COVID-free. Hey, Dan, good to see you, man. Happy you're here as well. Stone 36 wasn't that bad. I mean, for what it was in the Performance Center, it wasn't that bad. But overall, you had a audience-less WrestleMania. I don't care what you do. That sucks. That sucks. It's just, there's no two ways about it. WWE made the best of it. I think some of those matches were pretty good considering it was in a gym. But the fact that WrestleMania was in the setting that it was, it's disappointing. It sucks. As fun as the Funhouse match was, I would have much preferred the show in Tampa where it belonged. You know what I mean? IC Hardaway. Thank you, man, for the $5. Appreciate it. No one complained about wrestlers switching companies back in the day. Yeah, they did. And now everyone bitch when someone leaves WWE for a company like AEW. Fanboys. No, I guess I see what you're saying. Maybe the complaining isn't as bad. I'm sure it's as annoying as hell, because each side thinks the other side are the biggest fanboys. That's the funniest part. So if you're an AEW diehard, then NXT just fanboys, just WWE fanboys. WWE fanboys think the same thing about you on the other side. It's pretty funny as just with a guy with no dog in the fight to sit back and eat the popcorn and watch this insanity unfold on social media every single week when the ratings comes out. It cracks me up. But take it from me as someone who lived through the Monday Night Wars and the WCW and WWE rivalry. It was a very big deal when somebody jumped ship. And I know from myself being a WWE fanboy at the time, I was heavily critical of WCW. A lot of the fans that say right now that AEW is just a place for WWE cast-offs, that's not accurate. You know, there are a few people that used to work in WWE that are there. That is true. But cast-offs, I consider cast-offs people that WWE doesn't want. And there are some talent there that WWE most definitely did want, and they didn't want to be there. Now, the pandemic changed some things, you know, but WWE was not going to let FTR go. The pandemic forced their hand there. You know, otherwise they were going to try to keep them there and convince them to re-sign at all cost. So it's not like WWE was like, here, have these guys. We don't want them anymore. It's not like that. Maybe it's like that with a couple, but that's an incorrect assessment, basically, is what I'm saying. But I used to have that same feeling about WCW because they started loading themselves up with the stars of the 80s. I'm like, what's with all these has-beens that have already had their day to shine in the 80s? They're now all going to WCW and trying to recreate that. Even when Hogan first got there, watch his first few like pay-per-view matches and compare it to the first few WrestleManias. It was, it was Hogan with Mr. T and Shaq when he beat Ric Flair for the title. Kind of like WrestleMania 1 being involved with Mr. T. WrestleMania 2, he took on King Kong Bundy in the cage. His next big opponent in WCW was Vader in the cage on the beach. Remember that? And then WrestleMania 3, he faced Andre. His opponent after Vader was the Giant. It was like the same thing. They were trying to recreate the same shit. And that was definitely a complaint. I was one of the biggest complainers about that. So maybe it's not to the insane degree. And I think that's where you've got it right, Icy, is that it's not... it just wasn't. It didn't have that level of insanity from a fanboy's perspective as it does now, but it was definitely there. It was there for sure. I lived it. I talked about Raw this week. We've got Randy Orton versus The Big Show in an unsanctioned match coming up on Monday. I'm hoping that's a way to write The Big Show off of TV because he's been back for a few weeks ever since WrestleMania when he came back and lost to Drew McIntyre right after he beat Brock. He's been there for some time now. It's been nice to see him, but okay, that's enough Big Show. We'll see you later. And I'm guessing that Randy Orton will execute this legend and punt him or whatever, and Big Show will be off of TV until the next time he turns up again. So I'm kind of hoping that's what happens there and sends Orton onto a path with McIntyre. And I'm also wondering, because Big Show came out, they ran that whole angle after WrestleMania where McIntyre had to beat him right after beating Brock. I'm wondering if Orton does something and injures Big Show, if maybe McIntyre comes out to almost save him, or maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the Big Show at all, or maybe after Orton disposes of Big Show, if he calls out McIntyre and then there's a stare down to close out Monday Night Raw on Monday, and that's, sets up your big SummerSlam match, and now we've got several weeks to build that, which should be fun, with Drew McIntyre being kind of an unstoppable ass-kicking monster, taking on the sadistic legend killer, and that's going to be a fun match, man. That's just going to be a fun matchup, I think, just two studs. And McIntyre, honestly, pretty much looks stronger, looks like the stronger of the two. He was able to beat Brock Lesnar, pretty definitively at WrestleMania. Last time Randy Orton was in the ring with Brock Lesnar, he was left laying in a pool of his own blood at SummerSlam in 2016, right? So even though it's a little lopsided there, I still think that's going to be an excellent match. And I'm not completely ruling out them putting the belt back on Randy Orton, or maybe doing a deal where he takes the belt off of Drew and then Drew wins it back. Maybe WWE still feels they want Drew to have some sort of a moment in front of an audience. So maybe they pass the belt here to Randy for a little while and just kind of see where it goes. And maybe by the time we get to Survivor Series, if you can have some sort of a small audience, I don't think wrestling's going back to normal anytime soon, but if you can work something out where, hey, all of a sudden it's okay to have 500 people in an arena, provided that you're wearing masks and that you're spread out and all that shit. If you can work something like that out, by the end of the year, you can do the rematch and put the belt back on Drew, and he can have it going into next year's WrestleMania. Maybe that's something they do there, but you got to think about Edge too. Edge might come back. If you put the belt on Orton, you might think that might put Edge in line for a title shot when he gets healthy in a few months, if Orton indeed hangs onto it that long. So either way, I don't know who else. If Brock ain't coming back, and it's not going to be Randy Orton taking on Drew McIntyre, who the hell's going to wrestle him at SummerSlam? Ziggler again? No. Come on. So, yeah, maybe we'll get some fun SummerSlam seeds planted on Monday. We can only hope. If you want to check out my review on last Monday night's Raw, you can. It's on the channel right now. Not really a reason to, because Extreme Rules is tomorrow, and all that stuff is going to be obsolete. So that's really all I wanted to mention about Monday Night Raw. We'll head into the Wednesday Night Wars next. But first, let me hit up Super Chat that I see. A couple of them. Where Icy, I got yours, my friend. And How Wheezy, good to see you as well. Glad to have another mod in the house. And thank you for the $5. Luckily, the Chamber was in an arena on time. Would they had to change things at the last minute due to the fact the Chamber can't fit at the PC? Oh, yeah, the Chamber. Yeah. That's right. That was the last pay-per-view before the shit hit the fan. So what are they going to do in February if nothing's out of the PC yet? The Chamber might not be able to happen unless... Well, no, actually, I think it would. They did they were able to do the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream thing. They'd put it outside. They'd probably put it back in the back lot or something like that and build it and have it be an outdoor match. That might be fun. An outdoor Elimination Chamber match. And maybe they can edit it similar to the way they did Dream and Cole. I might be into it. Could be an option. You never know, man. Things are different. Things are different and things are weird. Hey, Michael. Good to see you, man. Dude, thank you for the $10. I appreciate it. Thanks for hooking me up with my WWE network this month. You are awesome. Japanese culture is known for being polite and humble. New Japan's world title is IWGP instead of New Japan World Champion. The titles are in English. When they are out in the ring, they count in English. Japan crowds are awesome. I've always enjoyed the vibe. I've always enjoyed the environment. I've always enjoyed the respect, and I was never more impressed than I was at the beginning of the year after Wrestle Kingdom when they had that great ceremony for Jushin Thunder Liger, and I was just blown away. We've seen some ceremonies like that before, but I was watching that one live, and I was just in awe of it happening. I'm like, God damn, all those people there, and you could literally take a safety pin, drop it on the floor, and every single person in that arena would have heard it hit the ground. That's how quiet it was. And that was just an unbelievable level of respect, and I was so impressed with it. And we're just too dumb in this country to ever act that mature. You know what I mean? We can't do it. Somebody's going to be shouting out, show us your boobs or something, we're awful. We're just horrible. But yeah, that's the cool thing about the culture there, and the crowds are always pretty badass. Adrian, good to see you, man. Welcome back as well, and I appreciate your donation as always. Evening, Greg. Are you looking forward to the pay-per-view tomorrow night? I am, and we're going to predict it here in just a little bit. I'm going to run through all the matches. I am looking forward to it. I think it's going to be more fun than it appears to be, perhaps, even though my predictions did not take me when I was writing down all my predictions here for later. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on these. I pretty much feel like I know where it's going to go, but there's a couple things I'm not too sure about. So we'll be getting into that soon. And again, thank you. I know you're joining us very, very early in the morning in Ireland, and it's always good to see you here. Icy, thanks again for $5 more, dude. I appreciate it. I want WWE, NXT, AEW, NWA, MLW, and Impact to all succeed. So do I. No need to root for the downfall of their companies. Let's just enjoy wrestling and have fun. You would think that would be really simple advice, Icy. You would think. But unfortunately, this is wrestling we're talking about and wrestling fans, and they just can't do it. There's just too much bad blood. They get too worried and angry about the fans on the other side, where fans' behavior actually causes people to root for the failure of another company, which is just so counterproductive, because you also like and respect the wrestlers, and you want them to have a place to work and get paid and have a job so they can continue entertaining you, but yet you can't get past that personal animosity to the fans on the other side, to where all that goes out the window and you actually want to see the company fail. There are people that want the WWE to go out of business. Why in the world would you want to put 200 wrestlers out of work? There are people that want AEW to fail and to have to fold, so all those wrestlers have nowhere to go, to where we're stuck again with no competition to WWE. Why in the world How could you let fans drive you to that extent, to where you actually root for the failure of a form of entertainment that you claim to love? I think fans are stupid. And I think everybody should take Icy Hardaway's advice, because I know I do. Anyway, let's move on to the Wednesday Night Wars. Speaking of those, normally on the podcast here on Saturdays, we go pretty in-depth on Dynamite and NXT, but I kind of consider both of these shows to be a little weaker. So I'm not going to go through tons and tons of stuff here. I'm going to gloss over the results here. And honestly, there's a little bit more to get into, and there's a little bit more meat on the bone on Dynamite this week than there was NXT, and I'm not going to keep you in suspense until the end. I already know which show I like better. Fight for the Fallen and Dynamite this week to me was a far better show than NXT. NXT was still okay. It had its moments, a couple of good matches there, and I thought NXT has had the better show in the past couple of weeks. But last week I know I picked AEW having the better show for night 2 of Fyter Fest. Was better, I think, than night 2 of Great American Bash. And they bounced back here again, I think, with a better show. I thought Fight for the Fallen had more to offer. It was more fun. It gave me more of that overall fun wrestling show vibe, which is something that I've always credited AEW with doing, is they just give you a really well-rounded, fun, wacky wrestling show. Where NXT sometimes doesn't have that variety. So this past week on Wednesday was a very classic Dynamite episode, if you ask me, and I preferred Dynamite better. And we'll talk about the ratings too. AEW, after a 3-week losing streak to NXT, losing both nights of the Bash and the week prior to that, they bounced back with a pretty strong victory here. 788,000 viewers for Dynamite to 631,000 for NXT. So that's a big victory for Dynamite, and it's one of those weeks where I thought the ratings actually matched, because I've talked about this for many weeks throughout the past few months. There's been lots of times where the show that got the higher rating, to me, felt like the weaker show, and it happened a lot with AEW. There was a lot of weeks there where AEW was winning in the ratings, but I thought NXT was better. This week, I feel like the ratings matched the quality of the show, and to me, that's kind of a good thing. But anyway, we're going to start with NXT first, because, like I said, we're going to blow through this pretty quick. There's only a few, notable things to talk about on the entire show here. But the show opened up with the Keith Lee NXT era kicking off. He, of course, won the title last week from Adam Cole. He is now a double champion, and we were all speculating on what they were going to do with the North American title now that there's going to be a double champion, and it looks like both titles are going to be defended here, at least for a little bit. I still think what's going to wind up happening is the North American title is going to be held up. I think Keith Lee might defend it a few times, and then maybe William Regal or Triple H or something like that makes an announcement that, we need to separate the title and we're going to have a tournament for it or something like that. I feel like that's going to happen, because I don't think you just created the North American title, so you're not going to unify it already, are you? And it's not even like a world title. This is like their secondary title, like their IC title. So merging the two, to me, I don't like, and I hope it's a temporary thing. But for right now, he's the double champion. He thanks the NXT universe, and he calls out his friend, his buddy, Dominik Dijakovic, they've had many wars. They're kind of like frenemies. They've had a spirited rivalry as friends, and he says that he loves him, and you're my friend, and actually offers up a chance at the title. I want to give you the first opportunity at both belts, and he's going to put both belts on the line. And what I thought was going to be the main event of the show, but it was not. It actually took place shortly after that, maybe I think at the top of the first hour or something like that. And you had a pretty good match between them, but we've seen these two guys work before, and we've seen them work at takeovers, right? And they've had a lot better outings, I think, than this one, although this was still a solid match. It wasn't, I've seen better, basically, from the two of them. Plus, is Lee going to drop the title in his first defense the very following week against Dominik Dijakovic? The outcome here was extremely predictable. You knew it was going to be a Lee victory. He did wind up winning with the Big Bang Catastrophe. After the match, you had the sportsmanship, you had the shake of the hands, you had the hug between the two, and that's when the lights go out. And Scarlett shows up. She walks out to the ring. No music, no nothing. Walks out to the ring with a bag. She dumps the contents of the bag on the ring apron, and it's the broken hourglass that Keith Lee had broken a few weeks back. So reasserting, because we also saw last week at the end of Great American Bash, the great camera shot from the booth up top with Karrion Kross and Scarlett looking on as Keith Lee celebrated. So it does look like Keith Lee and Karrion Kross will be the next big title program unless Lee has a couple of small challengers here in between. And that's kind of what we expected. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays in, if Keith Lee will still be a double champion by the time the Karrion Kross match happens, and whatever they do here should be interesting. And also next week, we're going to get a pretty good match here, I think, a pretty big test for Karrion Kross, because after the match, Dominik Dijakovic was being interviewed backstage, and he talked about Karrion Kross, and he says he's tough, but he's no Keith Lee. Karrion Kross shows up. They start fighting. They scuffle with each other. Karrion Kross, as strong as he is, cannot get the damn tie off his neck, which was pretty funny to watch. And it was announced that we are getting Karrion Kross versus Dominik Dijakovic next week on NXT. That should be good. You know Kross is going to win, but it should be a fun match. I'm ready to see him, match up with somebody, bigger than him, and to see if he can really look that dominant and that strong and that Brock Lesnar-like if he's going up against somebody that's even larger than him. So next week should be fun. I'm really looking forward to that match. I think we had an end to the Damian Priest and Cameron Grimes saga, with Cameron Grimes fucking with Damian Priest, slashing his tires, doing all that stuff to him. We finally had the match here on NXT, and boy, was it competitive. Maybe a bit more than I thought. I thought Damian would... Grimes is no slouch, and they're trying to present him a little bit more seriously, even though he's got the silly gimmick and voice and hat and all of that. He's not as quite of a joke as he appeared to be when he first came in. But man, he really took Priest to the limit here. In the end, Priest got the win, which is good. I just thought maybe he would have kicked his ass a little harder based on everything that Grimes had been doing to him. Indy Hartwell scored an upset victory over Shotzi Blackheart. She had some help from Robert Stone and Aaliyah in that match, who came out and did all sorts of distracting there. Later on, they did a weird spot, or it wasn't actually, I think it was a flashback to earlier on in the day. So they showed the segment where it was Robert Stone and Aaliyah and Killian Dane. Killian had gotten the coffee spilled on him a couple of weeks ago, and he's been pissed about that. Robert Stone's trying to make it up to him and trying to not have this guy kill him. And they're talking or something. Aaliyah shows up with some artwork that our friend that we saw at the top of the podcast here, Dexter Loomis, drew from Great American Bash, showing all the highlights there. Killian Dane is then mad about that and tells Robert Stone, if you want to make things right with me, you get me a match with Dexter. I don't know how Stone can make that match unless he's telling Stone to contact William Regal on his behalf. I don't know why Killian Dane just can't text his ass. I don't know. Kind of a silly way to set that up, but it does look like we're going to be getting Killian Dane and Dexter Loomis, I guess, next week, if they've either announced that officially yet or not, but I'm guessing that's what we're going to get. We had Timothy Thatcher beating Denzel Desjardins. He had another Thatch Can segment where now he wants to make his opponents cry after he beats them, so that's pretty funny. I kind of like that. It's definitely a different twist on Bundy's 5 count, that's for sure. After he destroys poor Denzel, I think he's trying to make him cry, and that's when Oney Lorcan shows up to make the save. It doesn't look like the issue between those two guys is over yet, and I like Thatcher. I like him a lot, so I think... continuing the issue with Oni, just to, keep getting him over as just a badass is fine. The matches between them would be good. And I just have really high hopes for Thatcher. I just think he's a badass. I like his look. I like his toughness, his intensity, his grittiness. I like his missing teeth. And he looks like somebody that isn't to be trifled with. And he had that big win a few weeks back to send Riddle over to Smackdown. So he is not to be trifled with. And I'm got high hopes for Timothy Thatcher. I want nothing but the best for him. And he's another guy. I got Johnny Gargano kind of pegged for this, but if you are going to separate that North American title from the NXT title at some point, whenever you do that and how, I would either put it on Gargano or I would put it on him, on Thatcher. Sorry, Loomis, you'd be third. But Thatcher I really like. And actually some Thatcher and Loomis matches would be fun too. I'd be totally into that. The main event was Io Shirai defending the NXT Women's title against Tegan Nox. Tegan earned this opportunity at the Great American Bash. And it was interesting, too, because when they did that match, that was the 4-way, and Dakota Kai was involved in that, right? And I remember when I made my predictions for it, I predicted Dakota, because Dakota did the big heel turn last year. She's got Raquel with her now. I like her presentation. I like the momentum that she's on. Io Shirai is a babyface champ. She needs a good heel to work with. I thought Dakota was going to win that match, and it turned out to be Tegan instead. So they gave Tegan the babyface match here on Wednesday, and you knew Io Shirai is not going to be dropping the belt to Tegan, but it was a really good, solid effort by Tegan. I loved it. She's great. Even though you knew she was going to lose here, even though you knew that Tegan and Dominik Dijakovic were both going to drop those matches. I thought this match was really good. And in the end, after Io gets the win and she's celebrating on the stage, she's blindsided by a big boot right to the face, right to the mush by Dakota Kai, who comes out, lays her out, and kind of stands over her, and that appears to be our next title program. So Dakota didn't get the title match like I thought. Instead, she's going to be getting a title feud, which is better than just a one-off match, and I like it. So I'm hoping that Dakota and Io Shirai can have some fun here. I'm a huge Dakota fan. I just thought the heel turn was perfect last year. I love the way she did it. I like her look. I like her change in attitude. I like the Shawn Diesel-esque pairing that she's got going on with Raquel Gonzalez. And I just like everything about Dakota Kai. So I don't think at the end of the day she would beat Io Shirai for the title. I think they should give Io a little bit of a run here. I mean, she's one half of a pretty powerful power couple now in wrestling if you when you look at it. But maybe, I mean, Dakota would be a fun heel champion as well. So I don't know. Maybe if that feud and that program lasts long enough, you could eventually put the title on Dakota. I wouldn't be against it at all. I'm just so pro Io right now. I'm in no rush to see her drop the belt. What say y'all? Give me your lowdown on Dakota. You want to see it happen or not? Or what do you think is going to happen in the future? I don't know. Either way, I'm excited for the program, and I think those two ladies will do an exceptional job on top of the women's division, fighting for the title. So that was your NXT in a nutshell. Not a bad show, like I said. I mean, we had 2 world title matches. You know, Io Shirai and Keith Lee, or technically 3 title matches because Keith Lee put 2 belts on the line. So you can't criticize and say a show sucked that had that type of action on it. But after coming off the Bash, I thought this was a somewhat weaker NXT, and the ratings showed. But AEW, on the other hand, Dynamite was back this week with another pay-per-view tagline attached to it. Now this is going to be Fight for the Fallen, and they have bumped the Jon Moxley-Brian Cage to the main event of this show, and it was supposed to take place on Fyter Fest, but they were set up here with 2 title matches of their own. Actually, I think I left it out. I think I said we had 5 title matches during the week. I think it was 6. We had 1 on Raw, and then we had 2 on Dynamite, 2 on NXT, and then we had 1 last night on Smackdown for the IC title. So yeah, it was 6 title matches, not 5. I'm wrong. That's a lot. That's a lot going on. So we knew what the main event was going to be, and that was going to be interesting, especially since Taz had reintroduced and resurrected the FTW title last week, and that was going to play a role and all of that in the main event. So we'll get to that in a minute, but the show opened up with the TNT Championship match, Cody Rhodes defending against Sonny Kiss. This was announced a week back, and I was looking forward to this one because, of course, there was a lot of hate and some stuff going on online, with the Sonny Kiss situation earlier on in the week, and I was just really overjoyed to see how many just wrestlers just came out of the woodwork to defend this guy. Everybody's got his back, and it's pretty crazy, how wrestling is changing over the years. Back in the 90s, this exact same character and gimmick and presentation by Sonny Kiss would get a completely different reaction from the wrestlers, wrestling audience, and the wrestling announcers, and it would be presented in a completely different way. And I don't think we have to use our imagination. We don't have to think very hard to imagine what they would have done and said and how it would have been presented if this would have been 25 years ago. Sonny Kiss comes out with a great opening dance routine with some of the Jacksonville Jaguar cheerleaders. Great stuff there. And what I liked about Sonny Kiss is how aggressive he was. Like in the whole match, like even though he was going out there and dancing and doing his booty shaking, he wasn't fucking around in the match, and he was taking it to Cody and really having him on the ropes a couple of times. Even nailed him with a crossroads at one point and got a really close near fall on him. So I thought the match was a lot, I guess, more hard hitting, just like brutal, just a lot of just heavy strikes and shots and all of that. And I really like the aggressiveness of Sonny Kiss and really taking Cody to the limit here. And Cody's defenses so far, even though everyone he's had, you're not expecting him to lose. Like, I didn't think Sonny Kiss was going to beat him here, just like I didn't think Cody was going to lose the last couple of matches he had. But him kind of doing this John Cena type of open challenge thing, I really like. And so far, the matches have been pretty good, and most of them have been babyface matches, and most of them have followed the same formula where he's given, an up-and-comer a shot. They fall short. There's the show of respect and sportsmanship at the end, and this match was no different. Final really aggressive flurry of offense by Sonny Kiss at the very end is thwarted by Cody Rhodes, and he finally hits a crossroads on Sonny Kiss and puts him down. But for him to fend off, that final flurry of offense took a lot of effort by Cody, and I liked what I saw about both, and I liked what I saw out of both, and I thought this was a really, really solid championship match, and I liked it. So much like Io Shirai, Tegan Nox, and Leon Dijakovic, it was predictable. I didn't expect anybody on either one of these shows to drop any titles, but it was still good, and I thought it was one of the better title matches of the week. Not as good as last night. I think Riddle and AJ gets the award for that, but very good, very entertaining. Hats off to both guys. I like this match, too. We had FTR taking on the Lucha Bros. This was great because Lucha Bros are the Lucha Bros and all the things they can do and that crazy Lucha style. FTR, they're old school. They're Tully and Arn. So to me, the contrasting styles between the two teams was going to make for a fun match, and it was. A couple of hiccups, weird botch at the beginning, but they wound up, kind of finding their niche, finding their groove, and went on to have a really good match. You had the Butcher and the Blade, who have, I guess, stolen FTR's truck. They're kind of off to the side there on the stage watching the whole thing. The finish was pretty good. The finish was great. You had, I think it was Dax had ripped off the Lucha mask of Rey Fenix. Ripped it right off. Kind of like, it reminded me, because I just talked about this recently, and yesterday was the anniversary of the 9-year anniversary of the 2011 Money in the Bank pay-per-view where Punk beat Cena. But in the Money in the Bank match, I think on the Raw side, it was like Del Rio and Rey up on the ladders, and Del Rio ripped the mask off of Rey, and he had to cover up and allow Del Rio to win the briefcase. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit because, when a luchador loses his mask, his instinct is to cover up, and that's his number one priority. This would have been in Mexico, would have been a DQ. But here in the States and here in AEW, that's not the rule. So pretty smart, cagey move by a team like that, ripping off the mask, and he's able to roll him up and pin him and get the win. I like that because, it also kept the Luchas strong. The only reason they really lost is because of the mask removal and all of that. After the match, you see the Young Bucks show up behind the Butcher and the Blade, knock them out with a pair of super kicks. They grab the keys, so they have now retrieved FTR's truck for them, which is very nice of the Young Bucks. They get in the ring to kind of say, hey, you want the keys to your truck kind of thing, and that's when Kenny Omega shows up with a cooler. He's got a cooler of beer because was it last week? When did it happen on Dynamite where they offered Kenny the beer, but he doesn't drink? So he kind of pours it out. And I like that because that carried over to social media. I was watching FTR, some of the things they were saying to the fans online, and and they're like, man, you got a problem with somebody who doesn't like to drink? And they're like, no. And a lot of fans, maybe who don't drink or straight edge people or whatever were really offended that they got that mad about Kenny pouring out the beer. You got a problem with people like that? And it was so funny to watch FTR try to explain this so many times, and it was falling on deaf ears every time. And they're like, look, no, we don't. We do not give a shit about him not wanting to drink. We have nothing against him for that. What we don't like is him wasting a beer. Stone Cold Steve Austin wouldn't like that either. You don't just dump a beer on the ground. If you don't want to drink the beer, don't drink it. Give it to somebody else. Don't waste it. Don't pour out your wounded soldier. It's not what you do. It's bad. It's just not it's not how drinkers do things kind of thing. So to watch them have to repeatedly explain that to fans and them not understanding, to me, was pretty entertaining. So this time, Kenny, he comes out there to try to make it right. He's got a whole cooler full of beer. And if you noticed, they were Miller Lights and the logo was scratched off in Sharpie, but you could still see right through it. I thought that was funny as well. But Kenny presents him with the beer, and they proceed to dump the beer on Kenny's head instead, which again is wasting beer. Kenny is pissed. The Bucks hold him back. He wants to fight those guys, but the Bucks are like, no. We got a 6-man match later on against Jurassic Express. You can't go fight an FTR right now, and they kind of hold him back. So he's pissed. He's mad, and that whole situation continues. During the match, by the way, you had... I'm sorry, that was later on. That was during the 6-man. I'll mention that in a minute. After that is when we had, oh man, do I have the order of these wrong? I might have the order of these matches wrong. Anyway, I can't remember what happened next, but we might as well talk about the 6-man, and then we'll circle back and talk about Jericho's promo. So we had the Omega and Bucks coming out later on. They were taking on Jurassic Express. I don't think this match was next. I think it was later, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because I had almost mentioned that FTR and Hangman Page were kind of drinking together watching this match on the monitor, which I thought was really cool, because at first with the Omega and Page stuff, it looked like it was going to be Page to be the one to go heel, because he was so uncooperative. All the Elite members would be celebrating and he'd be nowhere to be found, or he'd leave, or he'd be so concentrated and so focused on drinking and getting wasted that he didn't want to hang out with his friends, and he was just doing shitty things. So, the writing was on the wall there. Oh, they're eventually going to turn this guy heel, and he's going to be a huge fucking heel, and it's going to be great. But now it almost seems like they're reversing it a little bit, and now you got Kenny Omega teasing some heel stuff, because now he's mad. He got beer dumped all over his head. So he's got to come out here for this 6-man match, and he's got to take his aggressions out on somebody, and he singles out poor little Marco Stunt and just heals on him through most of the match. And it was a fun match. It was the epitome of what a Dynamite match has been since it started last year. Crazy action. These two teams or the Bucks and Jurassic anyway, have a lot of chemistry. They had the crazy Super Destroyer spot where it was like I think it was Marco hit. Who did he hit it on? I forgot. And Marco hit it on somebody off the shoulders of Luchasaurus. It took a little bit too much cooperation for my liking, but it was still a really good spot, and they did one similar the week prior off the stage, I think, during Fyter Fest. So I did enjoy that spot, and the match itself was just so loaded with the token Luchasaurus hot tag, and the crazy offense by Marco Stunt, and just a whole lot of Buck stuff and a whole lot of Jurassic stuff and a whole lot of Kenny. And Kenny kind of being a dick throughout this match, which was really interesting. Finally hits the one-winged angel on Marco Stunt and pins him. And in just a beautiful piece of camera work here, after he gets the win and pins Marco Stunt, he's still kind of laying over Marco, and he kind of looks over the camera, gives it a little wink, and then just starts nailing Marco. And the Bucks are like, what the fuck? And they jump in and kind of hold Kenny back. So I like that they might go heel on Omega here, because since Omega has been with AEW, we all thought his signing, he was going to be the cornerstone. And we thought he was going to be the centerpiece because of all of his success in Japan and the titles he's held there and the matches he's had. He was going to be like their Shawn Michaels or whatever. And it really wasn't like that. He had the big match, the great match with Moxley, and he did some great shit, but he's been mostly, the tag champs with Page and being involved in the whole deal with the Elite, and he hasn't really been on the top of the card like we thought, and he's gotten a lot of criticisms from some people who don't think he's as great as other people make him out to be, and they don't find as much stock in the Great Japan matches as maybe someone like Meltzer does. You got people like Jim Cornette who literally think the guy is useless and too small when he's in better shape, and he's in better shape, and he's not a pound lighter than a lot of guys that Cornette managed back in his heyday, especially with the tag teams. He's not, when you compare, Jim Cornette, when you compare Dennis Condrey, somebody that Jim Cornette thinks is God, to Kenny Omega, from an athletic standpoint, from a look standpoint, from a size standpoint, I check all the boxes with Kenny and zero over with Dennis. But Cornette's got a really warped kind of sense of reality, and he hates guys like Omega, and some fans feed into that as well, and they don't feel like Omega is good or whatever. I don't think Omega is AJ. I like AJ better, between the two, but I think Omega is an exceptional professional wrestler, and any company should be happy to have him. And if they are going to kind of make him heel now, I want to see it. I don't have a whole lot of experience watching Kenny Omega as a heel. A few matches, but not much. I want to see what he can do. He's been a face now this whole time. Let's turn him heel, see his more darker side, his angrier side, and watching him beating the piss out of Marco Stunt on Wednesday, I thought was a lot of fun. And I'm interested now to see, kind of how they did the 180, and it looked like it was going to be Page to be the dick. If they turn it now, and it turns out to be Omega, and then Page turns into maybe like a babyface cowboy drinking Stone Cold Steve Austin type, that's a lot different from the direction that we thought they were going to go in 6 months ago. And that's cool. So anyway, I kind of hope they do the Omega heel turn. I hope it becomes a full-blown thing, and he just turns on the Elite and snaps and goes nuts. I'd be interested in seeing that. I would. I think it'll be fun. I was going to mention this a minute ago, the big Chris Jericho Inner Circle promo. This was great. I love this stuff because maybe the ending here that I'm going to talk about with the juice coming down is a little weird, is little bit too WWE-ish for me, and an idea that was taken directly from them. But still, it was a good segment, and I think the MVP of the segment was Jericho, because Jericho is fucking great. I love this. So now he's doubling down on this demo shit, because when Fyter Fest lost, I think it was week 1 to the Great American Bash, and you could tell that Jericho was pissed, because he went on Twitter and he's like, let me tell you something, idiots, total overall ratings don't matter. What matters is the demo. It's all about the demo. And he releases this like chart. Tony Khan kind of does the same thing. They're like falling all over themselves to explain the importance of the demo, and I thought it came off as a little petty. And it's something that I expect better from Jericho. I'm like, Jericho, what do you give a shit? And for him to get so defensive like this, I thought that like Khan and Jericho were almost acting as immaturely as the fans do on ratings day. You know what I mean? I was like, why do you even have to tweet that? But I think maybe the initial tweet had pettiness to it. Now everything he's doing, it's like he's running with it. I think even Jericho knows, okay, I'm going to turn a negative into a positive. Maybe I shouldn't have tweeted that. Maybe I was a little bit transparent with what I was trying to get across. But now he's taken it, and like he does with everything, he sees an opportunity to market it and make money about it, and now he's going to double down on it and just troll the hell out of everybody. So now I feel like Jericho's doing it in a trolling capacity, because, a lot of fans were ripping him apart. Oh my God, Jericho, you have to fucking make these excuses and stuff. So maybe that initial tweet wasn't the best idea, but everything he's done since then I have loved. And what's interesting is Jericho is just a short time away from his 50th birthday. He turns 50 in a couple of weeks or months. I don't know when his birthday is. It's soon. So he's about to be out of the demo. The very demo that he claims to be the god of, the 18 to 49, he turns 50 soon. So he's not even going to be in the demo anymore, which is pretty funny. But he's going on and on about the demo now in the promos, and they've even released the Demo God t-shirt. He called himself a Demo God in the promo. I am the Demo God. And to me, that's what's funny. To me, that's what epitomizes Jericho, and that's why Jericho is so great. Because he takes shit, runs with it, and makes money off of it. And, he's a heel, so he can get away with, making this excuse of the demo over and over. And I'm interested to see what he's going to say next week when they won overall viewers. But in the promo here, he was saying it's great to win the overall viewers, but the only thing that matters is the demo. So I like this, because I'm watching people on social media that I don't think they know that he's just fucking with you now. Like I said, that initial tweet I think was kind of petty. And I thought it was very transparent. You could tell he was just mad. But everything since then, I think, has been more of a Jericho taking this and using it for his character, being over the top with it, pushing it, being obnoxious, shit like that. That's what makes Jericho great. And that's why Jericho is so smart. Because, and plus, all the people that are shitting on him, I hate to say this, he's smarter than you. He's been in the business a long time. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get a reaction and a rise out of the fans. And he saw something. I think that initial tweet sparked a light bulb in his head. He's like, just based on the reaction of that audience, I could take that and run with it on TV and sell some fucking t-shirts. And that's exactly what he's done. So maybe I wasn't, I do remember on the last week's podcast, I criticized Jericho for that tweet. I did. But I think everything that he's done since then has been awesome. And I fully support it. And I will buy a Demo God shirt just because it's so stupid. And I fucking love it. So anyway, I'm loving that stuff. I hope Jericho keeps with that demo stuff, because in a wrestling war that's contested so heavily online on social media between the fans on both sides, every time he mentions that demo, all it's going to do is needle the NXT people, and they're going to get madder and madder. Which me, I am an NXT people, but I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't get mad at all. I don't give a shit. So people that are heavily behind NXT and want AEW to fail, they get so mad every time you mention something like that. Just like when Meltzer or Alvarez or something like that on Twitter talks about the demo, everybody's just, man, you're just a shill and you're just mad and you're just making excuses. Now that Jericho can do this with a larger voice and a larger audience and do it on TV, all for it. Just keep pouring gasoline on that fire, because that's awesome. We need that stuff. It's like I think a lot of the hate and the arguing and the fighting online is a little bit silly, but it also at the same time sparks a lot of passion. And unfortunately, fans just can't have spirited debates. It has to be filled with hate. Oh, you're just an idiot and you're fucking stupid and blah, blah, blah. And just, oh, my God. But Jericho feeding into that and just riling up the audience even more and just working the shit out of them, to me, is super fun. But then he goes on to talk about Orange Cassidy. And him and Orange Cassidy just had a hell of a match last week. Great match. And probably the best outing and biggest match of Orange Cassidy's career. He was very impressive, showed what he can do in there to all the naysayers as oh, he's not a real wrestler. Yes, he fucking is. And he's working with one of the all-time greats. And if Jericho, a 30-year veteran, multi-time world champion, and future Hall of Famer, if he sees value in Orange Cassidy, I'm going to take Jericho's opinion than little Johnny living in his grandma's garage. You know what I mean? So I'll trust Jericho over the fans any day of the week and 11 times on Sunday. So I'm all for Cassidy and his ability and the matches he gets and the pushes and the exposure that he gets. Jericho is adamant about not giving Cassidy a rematch. He said the network loved it. The fans loved it. It was the best match Cassidy's ever had. I made Cassidy look like a star, and everybody wants a rematch, but he ain't getting one. And no matter what, Jericho's not going to give him a rematch, which means he probably will get a rematch, and Cassidy's probably going to get a win. Jericho will probably put him over if they do, in fact, do the rematch. So after Jericho's talking all the smack, Cassidy comes out. He kind of walks through, the seats there, and Jericho's talking shit to him some more. Says, you're not getting a rematch no matter what you do. You can stand out there all you want. It's not going to happen. And Cassidy does the thumbs up, and then he does the thumbs down. And that's when this orange liquid, and they must have had, I wish I could have looked at go back and watch the tape. There must have been just an X or something in the ring for Jericho, the exact spot for him to stand, because that was a pretty narrow stream of liquid that came down from the ceiling, and it middled his head. I mean, perfectly. And fucking Ortiz is immediately, as soon as the liquid hits, he's bumping on the liquid, standing up, falling down, 2 or 3 back bumps, falls forward, kind of looks like he's swimming in it, can't get his bearings straight, and every time he stands up, he's falling around. The inner circle's all drenched in orange juice. I guess it was supposed to be orange juice. They had bottles of orange juice with them too that they poured out to I guess rest in peace Orange Cassidy or whatever. So they were doing all that. Then they get hit with the orange juice. It's all splashed on Jake Hager's gear, and it was pretty funny. I mean, it was a little bit over animated. I mean, even though I was laughing my ass off at Ortiz, he was maybe being a little bit overboard with him falling all over the orange juice and stuff. But overall, good stuff. And I do like that it's going to be setting up, obviously, probably a rematch between Jericho and Orange Cassidy. If they continue to push this issue on TV, there'll probably be a deal where Jericho's like, okay, you got to beat this inner circle member, and if you beat him, maybe like a returning Sammy Guevara or something. You're gonna face a member of my inner circle, but I'm not gonna tell you who it is. And if you can beat him, you get a match against me. Well, although that might not work, because if you're gonna choose any member of the inner circle to face Orange Cassidy, you're probably gonna pick Jake Hager. But I think it might be fun as a fun way to bring Sammy back in. If you've got Proud and Powerful and you got Hager and Jericho in the ring, he's like, you're going to face one of these guys, but I'm not going to tell you who until the end of the show. And then it turns out to be Guevara or something like that, or maybe interferes or something like that. And then Cassidy beats him, gets the rematch made official. And then it happens, somewhere in the future or whatever the next big show for AEW is. Or it could just happen on Dynamite. Might be a good main event to try again one week and this time give Cassidy the victory. But either way, I think that should lead to a rematch, and it should lead to Jericho putting him over, if it was up to me. That leaves us... Oh, no, it doesn't. We got a couple other things to talk about. I have not seen the Nightmare Sisters work much. I thought Allie and Brandy kind of weren't getting along. They've formed a tag team now. They're on a winning streak on Dark. I haven't seen any of those yet. They even have some matching outfits. Dustin was out there backing them up in the managerial role. And they got another... Excuse me, let me get my cat out of my cord here. You want to say hi to the audience real quick? Say hi. Hey, everybody. He was messing with the microphone cord. I just want to get him out of here. You got to go down there, buddy. We're in the middle of the Winged Eagle. Anyway, Allie and Brandy now have seemed to form a team, and they've got a little winning streak going here, and they ended up defeating, I think it was it Kenzie Page? Is that her name? The super young girl. She's like 18, and MJ Jenkins there. Pretty much a squash. And we also had Nyla Rose's big announcement. That was advertised as well. Nyla Rose is going to come out and announce her new manager. We speculated on that last week, and we mentioned Vicky Guerrero, because if there's one thing that AEW loves, It's bringing in legends as managers. Holy shit, we have a lot of them. Who do we got now? Tully, Arn, Jake, Vicky, Taz. That's 5. Who am I missing? Is there somebody else? There might even be somebody else that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. So they really like doing that, and I like that throwback to the old days. Because it feels like the 90s or the 80s when you had a lot of these managers where you would have 5 managers in the company at a time. Back in the day, you had Brain, you had Bobby Heenan, you had Fuji, Slick, Jimmy Hart, Luscious Johnny, Oliver Humperdinck. Who am I missing? Some more guys were there as well. But just lots and lots of managers. So it's kind of cool to see that again. And we had a feeling that Vicky Guerrero, because she has been affiliated with AEW, WWE's kind of blackballed her, and she's there, and she's a woman, and she's a legend, and they're trying to put Nyla with somebody, and that's who they chose. So that's not that surprising, although I question if the chemistry is right. We're going to have to just see on that one. This is going to be one of those situations where I think AEW is going to try it. Doesn't work, then maybe you don't do it. I don't know how they match up. I always thought Nyla was a little more serious, a little more ass-kicking. Vicky can be loud. Vicky can be obnoxious. Vicky can be very obnoxious. And I just don't know. I almost feel like Nyla would be better with Taz, unless they just want to put Nyla with a female manager, which is fine. But just a manager in general, I feel like the character and the style that Nyla Rose works, a manager like Taz, whether it be a man or a woman, would be better. I'm not sure if the loud, obnoxious, crazy Vicky is the right fit for Nyla, but maybe it is. Sometimes sometimes opposites attract. Sometimes the weirdest pairings turn out to be the more successful ones, and we'll see. I'm not going to be sold on this at all until I just see how it goes on TV. Might turn out to be one of the greatest partnerships ever, or it might fall flat. And also, you got to wonder with all of these managers, you got to wonder with their situations what the shelf life of these alliances are, because will it get to a point where Jake just can't be on TV right now, so they have to get him away from Archer or drop it, or maybe Arn leaves or something, and Tully might be looking to form a faction. They were the camera was cutting to him during a couple of times, and I think during the Sonny Kiss and Cody match, the camera was kind of cutting to Tully there a little bit, so maybe he's doing some scouting. Tully might be looking to expand his his partnerships, because I think he's only with Sean Spears right now. So I would like to see some of these managers take on more than one client, because right now I think they all just manage one person, right? So that's why I thought Taz would be a good fit for Nyla, because he's already got Cage with him, and he can represent Nyla as well, and he would just be much better, I think, in that role, instead of having one manager manage one person. I think all the managers should have multiple clients. Hey, stop. Jesus Christ, I have 2 cats messing with me. Get out of here. Gosh. Anyway, so what do you guys think about Nyla and Vicky Guerrero? You think it'll work, or is it going to be a waste of time? I don't know. And I agree, stupid bird. Vicky is good. Vicky is great, and she's a great manager. I'm not doubting her ability to be a manager. I'm doubting whether or not this specific pairing with Nyla is going to have good enough chemistry. That's all I'm doubting. I'm not saying Vicky can't do it. Vicky's great. But just based on her personality and Nyla's, they're too different for me. I don't know. But that's just me. Trust me, I'd like nothing more to be wrong. I like Vicky. Vicky's awesome. Saw her on the cruise, hanging out there. We were able to see her husband. She's married again, and she's married to a pretty regular-looking dude. Just looks like somebody who would be like your Uncle Bill or something. That's what he looked like. That's how I described him, Uncle Bill. Anyway, let's get on now to the main event. I think that's all we really have left to talk about on Fyter Fest, and that, of course, was Jon Moxley defending the AEW title against Brian Cage. We talked about this last week. I felt like Taz resurrecting the FTW title telegraphed the outcome here. Now, I didn't think, even without that FTW title, Moxley was not dropping the belt to me. I just didn't think putting the belt on Cage is going to help your ratings at all. You can debate whether or not, you should take it off Moxley now, he's had his chance, or whatever. I just didn't see Cage being the guy. He's just not the guy. So regardless of what happened, I pretty much figured that Moxley was going to walk out with the title. So how are they going to do it? Was he going to beat him clean? Was it going to be a DQ or whatever? That was very interesting to me. I was curious to see how they were going to do that. But last week when Cage was presented the FTW title, I felt like that was a way to keep Cage relevant, giving him something important to do, because he's not going to be winning the title. I almost think like He should have brought in the FTW title next week after he lost to Moxley, then do it, because it just didn't seem like it made any sense. But I was still happy to see the FTW title come back. I would have just debuted it on a different week. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, they have the match, and it's probably good that this was this week. I think this was a better match to have on the main event this week instead of trying to go up against, Keith Lee and Adam Cole or whatever, because, these two guys run and work a much, slower, methodical pace. Brian Cage is ridiculously big. It was a lot of working the arm because Cage has got the surgically repaired arm. Moxley targeted that immediately, and it was great. And about midway through the match or whatever, and he locks in like the first armbar. And Jericho, who's doing commentary, screams out, "Armbar!" We all remember armbar, right? I think he's got that at least 17 times out of his 1,004 holds. So Jericho marking out for the armbar was pretty funny. Mox eventually, after several attempts of hooking him in that submission, even Cage gets his fingers locked at one time, essentially kind of, blocking the armbar submission. Moxley's got him. He keeps fighting it off. Finally, he's got it in the middle of the ring. He's even looking at Taz on the outside of the ring. Cage has nowhere to go, and he's got the surgically repaired arm. So Taz has got the big orange towel there, and he winds up throwing in the towel. So they went with the throw in the towel finish, so Cage didn't have to submit. He already had the arm that was less than 100% that Moxley worked and exploited and used to win the match. Taz threw in the towel for him. Taz gives the reason that he's just protecting his investment, because if he doesn't throw in the towel, Cage doesn't submit, he re-injures the arm, and he's back on the shelf for 10 more months or whatever it is, rehabbing the arm, and now he's lost a year of his career. So that was Taz's reasoning behind it, and I think it worked okay. But again, I just wouldn't, if it was me, I wouldn't have given Cage the title shot in that first match. He won the big poker chip thing in the ladder match and immediately got this match with Moxley, and much like Lance Archer and Brody Lee, I thought it was just kind of a little bit too quick. And there was really nowhere for him to go if he doesn't wind up winning the title. So what are you going to do with him? And that's why, obviously, they brought back that FTW title to give him something to carry around and give him something to do and say now that he's not going to be the champion. So we'll see, if they even do a rematch here, who knows? But it looks like they might, because after the match, Cage then attacked. Moxley hits him with the FTW title, continues the attack on him, and that's when the lights go out. And they come back on to show a returning Darby Allin hitting the ring. He's got the skateboard with him, dives off the top rope, hits Cage with the skateboard, and comes out to make the save from Moxley. And they kind of have this little kind of uneasy alliance between the two of them. I'd love to see another outing between Darby and Moxley. I'm a big Darby Allin fan. So anyway, all that was pretty fun. I like the Darby Allin return. I'm really happy Moxley kept the title. I don't really have an issue with the finish here. To me, it worked. I was just kind of curious. I felt like no matter what you did here, it was going to diminish Cage, and throwing in the towel is, it's not him submitting. It's not him losing. He's got the, repaired arm. They probably did all they could here. And I suppose it worked. And we'll see now what Brian Cage does if he goes on to start defending this FTW title. I don't know, but he's going to be wearing it, showing up on TV now every week. He beat the hell out of Brian Pillman Jr. on Dark last week as well. So we'll see if they just keep running with Cage as a monster, and if it leads to one more match with Moxley, or if he's done with Moxley and Mox moves on to a completely different program now that the Cage stuff is done. We'll see. Should be fun next week. But overall, like I said, between the two shows, I think Dynamite was the better show. Better stuff. Sonny and Cody opened with a barn burner. Loved FTR and Lucha Bros. The Jericho promo was just such classic Jericho shit, and it's such a great example of why I love him. Jurassic and Express and Omega and Bucks was fun as usual, and the main event was solid, and we had a new manager on the scene. So I feel like Dynamite gave us more. Better overall, fun show with more variety. They get the win this week, in my mind, over NXT. But again, Wednesday nights, still my favorite night of the week. And you know what I think about Dynamite? I mentioned this on Twitter this past Monday. I love Wednesdays. I don't want to upset the dynamic here, because I think it's so good that we have two good wrestling shows going up head to head. But you know what I would do if I was Dynamite? I'd move my show to Monday. I'd move Dynamite to Mondays. 10 years ago, this was an absurd notion. TNA bringing in Hogan, Bischoff, and then deciding to go head to head against the WWE on Monday nights was a silly decision They weren't going to come anywhere close to getting the ratings the WWE did, and WWE was going to slaughter them, and they did. But when you look now at how low the ratings are, this past week's Raw or whatever it got like 1.5 million viewers. It drew, this statistic blew my mind. Raw drew less viewers or the same viewers that TNA drew on their first week against WWE all those years ago back in 2010. That is mind-blowing because I remember laughing at TNA. Even their first week, they came nowhere near the ratings of Raw, and they, and they went down every week after that until they threw in the towel, waved the white flag, and moved to a different night of the week. But Raw is now getting numbers like that, and Raw sucks. Last week's Raw review for me was scary low in terms of viewership. Like in terms of my watchers and listeners, because nobody gives a shit about Raw. Probably nobody watched it or even cared what I had to say about it. Raw sucks. Mondays are horrible right now, and it doesn't look like WWE even gives a shit, like they don't even try. If AEW was to move their show to Monday, I'm not saying like they would beat Raw, because a lot of people are like, oh, Raw does double what AEW does. Yes, they do. But they would take a major chunk out of WWE's ratings. Because imagine that. Imagine if you're a fan every single week watching Raw, bored shitless, completely disgusted by what you see, constantly going on social media or your YouTube channel if you have one, and ripping the show apart about how boring it is and how Bruce Pritchard isn't over his head, having to write both shows, and the quality is just shit, and everything sucks, and WWE's not even trying. Imagine if you had a show the quality of Dynamite that gives us good wrestling every Wednesday. Imagine if you had that going up against Raw. That would be like a win-win for the fans because, number one, it would dramatically affect WWE's ratings. WWE would probably still beat AEW, but not by that much. Fans would say, oh, they'd slaughter them. How? AEW's already drawing half of what Raw is. If you put AEW on Monday against Raw, Raw's ratings is going to go down. Raw's ratings will go down. There's no way they can't. Because I'll tell you what, I ain't watching Raw anymore if AEW's on Monday nights. I'm watching Dynamite. I'll watch Raw on YouTube. I'm not watching that shit live. But the good news about that is, also, if they were to move to Mondays, it would force WWE to give a shit. It would force them to do better on Raw because they know Dynamite is a quality show. Going up against a quality show that WWE already has, I guess you can make the argument that NXT would get worse if it no longer has the competition to AEW. So I guess that might be true. But if you moved Dynamite to Mondays, WWE would have no choice. Their ratings are already the lowest of all time. They would only get lower. They might drop another 500,000 viewers, and the ratings might be 1 million viewers for WWE and like 500, 600,000 for AEW, which is still a big win for WWE, but terrible ratings in the long run for them. They're only drawing 1 million viewers now for Raw. They used to draw 8 million viewers back in the day. So that's a drastic change there. And I think moving Dynamite to Monday would be awesome. Monday night wrestling back on TNT. I'd be totally in favor of it. And like I said, it would force WWE to try. It would force WWE to not phone in Monday Night Raws and give us the same repetitive, redundant nonsense that we get every single week that we have to torture ourselves watching. So to me, that would be a good thing, and everybody would win. The fans would have entertaining wrestling to watch on Monday night, and it would force Raw to get better. And now we got a great Monday night show and two great Monday night shows going head-to-head just like back in the old days. And then maybe after that, AEW waves the white flag and they go back to Wednesdays, but at least they got Raw off and running, to a better place. So anyway, just a thought. I think it would be something to consider because I think, the funny thing is, though, even if AEW did that, they would essentially be helping WWE. Because moving to Mondays means WWE is going to have to try harder. And we've seen when WWE wants to win their ratings, they can. They can just load up with all their talent there. You got to think these Wednesday night wars, AEW is going up against like 1/3 of the company. There's 3 brands there. So when WWE wants, as we've seen, they can load up shows with so much star power that they're just going to win the ratings. But at least it forces them to do that and to give us better shows. And you never know. Just a thought. What do you guys think? Maybe we can do a whole video on that one day. Should Dynamite move to Mondays to go up against a clearly inferior show? Because of all, I mean, how many Raws lately have we seen that have been better than Dynamites? We've seen some NXTs better than Dynamites. We haven't seen any Raws. And no Smackdowns either. So anyway, I think that might be a good move, and it'll be a fun move for the audience. But anyway, that's a big if. Let me go back up here and see if there's any super chats before we start predicting Extreme Rules and talk about last night's Smackdown. Did I miss any? Let me go scroll way back up here. Good to see somewhat of a decent audience in here today. That's reassuring. Can you guys do me a really big favor and smash that thumbs up? We are only at 50 likes right now. I would like to get up to 1 million likes before I sign off here, so if you guys can help me out with that, I'd appreciate it. 1 million is all we need. Oh, how wheezy. Women's mid-card title. I like that question. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody ahead of you. I don't think so. All right. I don't see any other super chats. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody, but I'm going to start here with How Wheezy. Thanks, brother, for the $2. Should WWE introduce a women's mid-card title? Yeah, I'm ready for it. I think it would be better almost if just the women's divisions weren't so thin, because I think there's a ton of good women wrestlers there, but across 3 brands, I don't know if any brand can support it unless it's a tag title situation and that champion can float. Now, that's the only way a mid-card title, I think, would work with the women right now, because if you just had it on Raw, you have 2 contenders for it, you know? This champion's got to be able to float. So I would love for them, and WWE is probably going to create some silly-ass name, but I don't even want them to go too crazy with it. I just want them to make a women's Intercontinental title. If we have that ugly-ass Intercontinental title that I have here on the overlay with AJ, if we have to live through that thing now, at least bring back that one in women's form. Maybe make a cute little one with the white strap like Cody used to wear, but maybe smaller, or add some purple to it or something, but give it that design and call it the Intercontinental Championship, the WWE Women's Intercontinental title. I would love that. But knowing WWE, they're going to come up with some silly name for it, and the belt's going to look obnoxious, and I'll hate it. But yeah, I think a mid-card title is needed, and I think we're ready for one. But like I said, it's got to be a floater, because if you put it on one brand, it ain't going to work. Okay, I guess I didn't miss any. Just one more from Victor, and that's it. All right, if I did miss any super chats, I apologize. Let me know if I did, but I think I got them all here. And here's another one from Victor. Appreciate the $2, dude. I appreciate it a lot. Do you think Raw should go back to 2 hours? Yes, but it never will. I would love for Raw to go back to 2 hours, but that ain't happening. I think they're going to be 3 hours for life, and that sucks. John Cena might come back one of these days as well. But, you know, some of these big draws, you know, these Cenas and Brocks and stuff, maybe you just keep them off until the crowd comes back, because, you know, they're so much better. You know, Cena is better in front of an audience. Cena is better in front of an audience of half of them people booing him, half the people cheering him. That's what's fun about Cena. If he's out there cutting a promo in front of Eric Bugenhagen, like, who cares, you know? So I'd rather see some of these big stars just come back when shit gets back to normal. But knowing Vince, he's going to freak out. He'll freak out. And he'll get mad about something, and then he'll bring back whoever, bring back Roman or Brock or whatever. We'll see. Oh, yeah, Curtis, they have enough belts, but for the women, they have enough belts overall. There's like way too many belts, and I'm never somebody that says we need more belts, but I'm talking like just in terms of the division. I'm looking at the division in a vacuum separate from everything else around it. Yes, if you had a female or a women's mid-card title, you are adding another title to a promotion that's filled with titles. But in terms of the division, you know, a couple of world titles, a tag, and a mid-carder, I don't think is bad, especially if they do float. The tag team titles have proven to be fun, and if you do have like a throwback Intercontinental title, I'd be willing to give it a shot. But yeah, I think I'd rather have a women's mid-card title and eliminate one of the tags. You don't need a SmackDown and a Raw tag team title. I think one of those should go. I wouldn't even though I think the new U.S. belt looks pretty good, and I know the U.S. title isn't going anywhere, I'd be down to only have one men's mid-card title and eliminate the U.S. and just keep the IC. But that's not going to happen. But yeah, we have too many titles, but I definitely think there's some you can eliminate. You can definitely eliminate a tag title. You can definitely eliminate the 24/7 title, and you could probably even eliminate one of the women's world titles. I'd like to see the women's world champion float as well. Have a WWE and an NXT, and that's it. You don't need a Raw and a SmackDown. So I think there's room for a women's mid-card title, but you could definitely bump something else off. Yeah, we have too many titles, that's for sure. Yeah, he's in the audience. Bugenhagen. Screaming his ass off every week on TV. He's absolutely out of his mind. Anyway, what does that leave us with? SmackDown. That's right. That's what we got to talk about. SmackDown from last night. I'm not going to talk about much here because it's obsolete. Pay-per-view's tomorrow, so we got to predict that. But I do want to give props to AJ Styles and Matt Riddle, who just had a marvelous match, and I knew that one was going to be good. They announced it for the Intercontinental title. Matt Riddle, of course, beat AJ Styles in his debut match. So I had talked this past week and on Monday that I didn't expect Matt Riddle to be winning the Intercontinental title here. There's no way he was going to beat AJ and then beat him again, especially when he's on the cusp of a feud with Baron Corbin. And there's kind of that running issue between the two of them. So I had predicted earlier on in the week that Riddle would lose to AJ with help from Baron Corbin, but that didn't really happen. AJ pretty much beat him clean after a great match and some of the just amazing back and forth action. And a couple of amazing strikes. That one knee strike to AJ's face, I thought, killed him. But really good match. I mean, these two guys, I talked about this match back before Matt Riddle jumped. You know, we were talking about like NXT versus AEW. And one of the things I mentioned here earlier is like when WWE really wants to win in the ratings, they can put a show together that will do that. And I always felt that with Dynamite, I'm like, look, man, if I don't know if WWE even is that freaked out about losing the ratings to them, because even if they do, if they get freaked out, all they got to do is say, hey, AJ, come to NXT and have a match with Matt Riddle. Imagine Matt Riddle versus AJ Styles on TV. I thought that would just be amazing. And now we've gotten it twice in just a matter of weeks on Fox. And this match was really, really good. In the end, Riddle, there's a great little exchange going on the mat. Riddle is trying to hook in the bro mission, and AJ kind of counters it, rolls him up, and gets a quick pin. So he didn't hit the Styles Clash or the Phenomenal Forearm, actually got a roll-up pin on him instead. And I really liked the sportsmanship. We saw a lot of that all week long. Sonny Kiss and Cody, Dominic and Keith Lee, and here with AJ and Matt Riddle. After the match, they had a nice little handshake, show of respect, and after that, that's when Corbin attacked Matt Riddle from behind. Even though there was a sportsmanship, AJ wasn't bending over backwards to help Riddle either. He kind of got out of the ring and let them have their deal, and Corbin just beat the shit out of Matt Riddle. So you know that will lead to a match now. I don't have that on my listing here for tomorrow. I don't think they put that together for Extreme Rules. That'll probably continue on SmackDown. But when that match happens, Riddle will knee that idiot in the face and pin him, and Corbin ain't beating Matt Riddle. So we'll see where that goes, but championship gold will be in Riddle's future. It just wasn't to be last night, but still an awesome match, and those two guys did the IC title proud. I might think that belt is ugly as shit now, and I'm always going to be a mark for the one behind me, but when it comes to IC title matches and what the IC championship and what matches for that title should represent, that was a perfect example of it. Hats off to Riddle and AJ. They kicked ass out there. We also had Bayley and Sasha taking on Nikki Cross and Asuka in a tag team match. Now, Alexa Bliss had a Moment of Bliss segment. She was, they were advertising some sort of a surprise guest. And a lot of people thought it might be Stephanie McMahon coming out to announce an Evolution 2. There have been rumblings of WWE bringing back the Evolution pay-per-view, which they still might. But now they're doing some sort of like Evolution Week or something, some sort of tribute or some shit to the women. So not sure if the pay-per-view is going to happen or not. There was also some talk about maybe AJ Lee being the special guest. I don't know why, but the special guest turned out to be Asuka. Bayley and Sasha, I think, came out there first, and they started fighting with Alexa and Nikki, and that's when Asuka came out to reveal herself as the special guest, and that set up a tag match with Asuka and Nikki taking on Bayley and Sasha. Bayley and Sasha got the win when Bayley pinned Nikki Cross with her feet on the ropes, and, both of these ladies, or all of them, are going to be involved with each other tomorrow. We've got Bayley defending the title against Nikki and Asuka defending the title against Sasha. And that's probably, in my predictions, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, those are the matches, the only matches on the card that I'm not quite sure about with my prediction. I've been talking for weeks about the way I think it's going to go, but the more I've been reading and hearing some of the reactions from you guys and what fans are predicting, I think I might be wrong in my prediction, but I'm going to stick with it. We also had Cesaro beating Big E. There was a stip here. There's going to be a tag team title match tomorrow with the New Day defending against Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. The winner of this match got to pick the stipulation. So Cesaro beat Big E. Hit him with the neutralizer, whatever his finisher is. And backstage, Shinsuke and Cesaro announced that the tag team title match tomorrow will be a tables match. So titles are on the line tomorrow, and I'll predict that one here in a second. And the only other thing I'm going to mention about SmackDown, even though a few other things happen, is that we had another vignette and promo with Bray Wyatt in the swamp or wherever he was. And this is a classic, old school Bray has returned here. And it looks like it's going to be primarily him, unless we see different versions of him in the swamp match tomorrow. But he's basically saying that he has to, the monster that Braun has become, he's got to go to the swamp to end this monster, whatever the fuck. So anyway, just a weird-ass Bray Wyatt promo talking about the swamp match. And I keep forgetting that it's not a title match. I keep forgetting the title's not on the line here. I keep thinking that it is, but it's not. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is not for the Universal title. This is just a swamp match. So that's going to drastically change my prediction as well. Because with Wyatt talking about this monster stuff yesterday, what I thought initially would happen is like Braun Strowman, since he beat Funhouse Bray, now he's going to beat old school Bray or classic Bray Wyatt. And with Bray talking about having to slay this monster that Braun has become, if Funhouse Bray can't do it and 2013 Bray can't do it, maybe he'll come out on TV after the loss and say the only way to beat a monster is with a monster. And that's where you get the Fiend coming back and challenging Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. But now I'm not sure if that's the outcome we're going to get here, and we'll predict that right now. So here's what we got for Extreme Rules tomorrow. While I'm getting this pulled up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's probably it. I have 8 matches written down, but I want to double check WWE.com to make sure there's not one up here that I'm missing, because I'm not sure if we got anything scheduled for the kickoff tomorrow. Do you guys know? Maybe a cruiserweight deal or something. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like, yeah, I don't see any other ones. That looks to be it, unless you guys let me know as we go through here if you think I'm missing anything. But here's what we've got for tomorrow for Extreme Rules. We'll start with the match I just mentioned, the tag team title match, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro taking on the New Day. New Day are defending the titles. Now, this is, I'm predicting an outcome here that I don't want. I feel like I've never understood Cesaro and Shinsuke and why they are so poorly used in the company. But every time Cesaro creates an alliance with somebody, it's usually pretty good. I really miss the Bar. You've got Sheamus on SmackDown as well, right? With the Jeff Hardy stuff. Why can't they put the Bar back together? I miss the Bar. So if they're going to give Cesaro another tag team partner here, he's been with Shinsuke for a little while now, ever since the Sami Zayn stuff. I would love, actually, to see these guys win the titles. New Day have been tag team champions. Is it 123 or 124 times? I always forget. One of those. They've been champions forever. They've been champions multiple times. It doesn't even mean anything when they lose the titles anymore, because they just win them right back. And it might give Cesaro and Shinsuke something nice to do and give them both gold to carry around. But they got a couple victories over New Day. Didn't they beat them the week before? And then Cesaro beat Big E yesterday. So what I want to see happen here is Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura win the tag team titles. But I don't think they are. I think the New Day is going to retain. But I'm really, really, really hoping to be wrong tomorrow. I want Nakamura and Cesaro to win. But if they do, it feels like that'll be 3 or 4 straight weeks in a row that they've gotten the best of the New Day. And that's usually not the way WWE does stuff. So I'm reluctantly picking the New Day, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm wrong. We also have Apollo Crews defending the new U.S. title that he doesn't even carry right now against MVP. You know he's going to get his revenge here. MVP's been such a shithead. He was the one that even revealed the new U.S. title that Crews hasn't even been able to hold or carry or wear yet. So Crews is going to beat MVP, should beat him pretty handily. I think he'll get to hold his title and have it and have that moment, and probably wind up dropping it to Bobby Lashley, although MVP is trying to create a faction here. So maybe, Crews either drops that belt to MVP, or Crews either drops that belt to Lashley at some point, or Crews turns heel and joins the faction. I don't know. But in terms of tomorrow, he ain't dropping that belt to MVP. No way. Apollo Crews retains, and he actually gets to hold that brand new sparkly gold belt. Good for him. We all like Apollo. Let's talk about the WWE title match. I don't think this is going to be the main event. I think this is going to be a mid-card match, because that's really what it feels like. I know the title is on the line here. I suppose this actually could be the main event, because Strowman and Bray is not. I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to have a match in the ring be the main event or one of these cinematic deals be the main event. I don't know. Either way, we're going to talk about the match here, regardless of where it lands on the card. Like we talked about earlier, in the record books, I believe Dolph Ziggler has one singles victory in all of 2020, and it's against Tucker. So he's somehow getting a title shot here, which, again, is fine because I think the match is just going to be good and fun. Don't forget, during this week, during these 6 title matches that we had this week on TV, none of them to me were, nobody was going to drop their belts this week. They were all predictable. None of them had any sort of an unpredictable feel to them. This one has a little bit more unpredictability to it because we don't know the stip. Dolph Ziggler earned the right to name the stipulation, but he's not going to do that until tomorrow, unless they announce it prior on social media, but I hope not. I don't want the stipulation to be announced until they get to the ring. And that's when you got to wonder what's Dolph going to do. And one of my big concerns, even though I think this match in the ring and athletically and physically will be great, I really hope the stipulation isn't a letdown, because if they're going to wait till the last minute, it better be good. We mentioned this past Monday. What if Dolph comes out there and just announces a regular match? A last man standing match, an Extreme Rules match. If he announces anything like that, it's not even going to benefit him. He's taking on somebody twice his size. Would you want to fight a guy twice your size in a match where there's no rules? I don't. How does that benefit you at all? And how are you not going to wind up dead at the end of this thing? So if there's no, limits to what kind of stipulation you can make, why can't Dolph Ziggler say, McIntyre, you have to face me and the entire Dallas Cowboys football team, in a brass knuckles, fist fight or something? Why can't Dolph Ziggler, per the rules, just bring out 10 of his friends and have an 11-on-1 handicap match against Drew, and no matter who pins Drew, Dolph wins the title? Can he make a stipulation like that? What are the limits? So if he comes out tomorrow and he just announces a regular match that does nothing to benefit him as a heel challenger, that's going to be a letdown to me. Now, regardless of what they do here, this is going to make Drew look strong. They are putting him they're putting him against what many fans feel like to be an inferior opponent, even though Dolph has talked this week that one of the big problems WWE had with him was his hair, and they made him change it, and he feels like he should have been champion. Rock even chimed in and said he would endorse Drew as WWE champion, Dolph as WWE champion. So I guess it's not totally out of the question that he's going to win the title, but I think that it is. I think it's just a way to make Drew look even stronger than he is. He's got to take on Dolph. Dolph's already overmatched, so he's going to stack all the cards in his favor, really stack the deck to put him at the biggest advantage possible against Drew, and Drew's still going to beat him. That's what's going to happen here. So whatever the stip is, I just hope it's creative. I hope it's different. And if Ziggler wants to be, somebody that's going to be taken seriously, I suppose, he shouldn't be stupid with his stipulation here and just make a regular match. He should make a crazy match that nobody's thought of before. Why can't he come out there and say, you have to handcuff your hands behind your back? Remember the Vince and Austin thing where Austin had to tie one hand? Why can't Ziggler show up with a pair of handcuffs and say, cuff your hands behind your back? I suppose technically he could still hit a Claymore that way, although he'd run the risk of tearing a shoulder or breaking a wrist. But why can't he do that? Why can't he duct tape Drew McIntyre's head to the ring post and the match happens, and that's how the match happens? And it's a submission match, and he just beats him with a kendo stick until Drew gives up. I don't know. If I was Ziggler, I'd have some fun with this here, and if I was WWE, I'd have some fun with this. But my gut tells me it's going to suck. Either way, regardless of what happens here, Drew McIntyre walks out of Extreme Rules as WWE champion. I'm picking him. Here's a couple of matches that I'm not sure about, although this first one I probably am. Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's title against Nikki Cross. We all love Nikki. I am absolutely not against a Nikki Cross title run in the future, but I think right now Bayley and Sasha are the best things across WWE TV right now. I do not want to see this boat rocked yet. I love them together. They are so much... They have so much more presence to them, I feel like, than they did during their first run when they were still baby faces and they were still friends and all that shit. Now with their look and their heelish look and their promos and how much Bayley has changed, and even Sasha has changed to a degree, they are so much more appealing now. They look like stars. I just like their whole look and presentation. And like I said, Bayley is hilarious on the mic. Sasha looks amazing, and she's one of the best wrestlers in the ring right now. and I love the pairing. So I don't want to see anything really happen with that yet, and I don't see Bayley dropping the belt unless they're doing something major here tomorrow to set up Bayley and Sasha at SummerSlam, which is what I thought they were going to do months ago. But now, still with no fans, maybe a run with this for a little while longer. I thought for sure the implosion would happen. Bayley and Sasha for the title would happen at SummerSlam, but maybe that's not going to happen now, but maybe it will. So they're either going to set that up tomorrow or they're going to stay the course with the two ladies. Either way, putting the belt on Nikki here would be strange unless Bayley loses the title and then Sasha wins the title later, and now you've reversed. They're still tag champs, but now it's Sasha 2 belts. Bayley only has the 1 belt, and now the whole dynamic is switched, and maybe the two of them are on Raw now together instead of SmackDown. I don't know. There's also the possibility of the 2 women power trip, which we'll talk about in a minute, but regardless of that, there could be a million different outcomes here. For this match, I feel a little bit more confident that Bayley will retain. I don't want to see her lose, even though she kind of pinned Nikki last night. Who cares? Bayley's got to retain here. I think that is better for the story. So I'm picking Bayley over Nikki Cross. Asuka and Sasha, however, that one's a little different. Asuka's defending the Raw Women's title against Sasha. Now, I've been saying for weeks on the podcast here that I don't want Sasha to win this belt. I think it could be fun to do the 2 women power trip thing and have Sasha and Bayley carry all these titles because they will be so great and so obnoxious and so over the top in their celebration that it will make for really, really good TV, I think. But there's also a lot of strength and momentum behind that Sasha and Bayley dynamic, them being tag team champions, the subtle tension between the two. Every time Bayley is on SmackDown and she's talking about the title or she holds the title up in the air, you see Sasha kind of looking up at it. You know, a lot of what they've been doing has been subtle, even in some of their interviews, like on Raw Talk or wherever it was. I liked a lot of that they did. And Asuka, to me, is such a badass, and she's so great, and she's equally as entertaining as Sasha and Bayley. Instead of putting all of your eggs in just a one basket, spread your eggs out and have Asuka do her thing on Raw and let Sasha and Bayley do their thing on SmackDown. And that's what needs to happen there. So all the way up until today, I've been predicting that Asuka will retain the title somehow. And I think a good way to do it is to have this match happen after Bayley and Nikki. After Bayley retains, Bayley can be at ringside or something, on headset maybe, sitting in as guest commentator, which would be great and entertaining. Maybe she jumps off headset, gets involved in the match, screws up, and costs Sasha the match. And since she cost Sasha the match, Sasha's like, hey, you can make it up to me since you ruined my title shot, give me a shot at yours at SummerSlam. That's kind of what I thought they were going to do, and they might still do that. But there's a lot of fans, a lot of you are thinking they're going to do all the belts thing. They got enough belts. Did Austin and Triple H, though, Curtis? You know what I mean? Like, it's not always like, I wouldn't want them just to do this with anybody. You know, Sasha and Bayley have a ton of momentum. Even though I want to see Asuka keep the belt here, there's also a part of me that think it would be awesome to see all the belts on Sasha and Bayley. It's not like it's going to happen for a year. If they carry all 4 belts, it's going to be like a matter of weeks. They'll drop something. It's not a big deal. Austin and Triple H was the same thing. How long did they hold those belts? A month, before Jericho and Benoit took them off them. So not a huge deal. And even Triple H lost the Intercontinental title to Kane during all that. So the whole thing didn't last. If they do the 2 women power trip, it's not going to last into 2021. It's probably barely going to last into SummerSlam. So I'm not against that at all. But I'm also such a huge Asuka fan and love what she's doing on Raw. Stay the course with Asuka. She's great. I want to see her continue to roll. And I'm hoping that there will be some sort of miscommunication costing Sasha the match, setting up either more tension with Bayley and Sasha or an actual match with Bayley and Sasha. But it all depends on the COVID stuff. SummerSlam was supposed to be in Boston. This probably was the original plan. Bayley versus Sasha. That might change now. WWE internally might say, let's hold off a little longer because they're great together. I don't want to see this duo implode yet, but the way they're setting everything up here, it feels like they might. So I feel like it could go either way. I don't know. As of right now, I'm picking Asuka and Bayley to both retain their titles. I'm predicting everybody to retain their titles on the show, to be honest with you. So unless Shinsuke and Cesaro can pull off the upset for the tags. Otherwise, everybody's probably going to retain their title here, which is what makes me a little bit nervous and which is why I think I could be wrong on one of these predictions for the women. So I've got Asuka and Bayley retaining, but I'm acknowledging the possibility of the 2-women power trip really happening and all 4 belts going on both ladies. I do think that's a possibility, but I love Asuka, and I don't want to see that happen to Asuka. Asuka's my homie, and I don't want to see her dropping that belt. So let's reluctantly go Asuka and Bayley to retain. We'll talk about the bar fight next. We got Hardy and Sheamus in the bar fight. We're likely to see anything here. I'm guessing this will be an edited deal, that this was something that was already probably filmed maybe this weekend or something like that. This one's probably already in the can, and hopefully they'll edit it and piece it together to look good. Still not a huge fan of the storyline. I think a lot of people are just kind of turned off by it a little bit. So let's hope that this is the end. I think they're always going to push the Jeff Hardy redemption story, but if he feuds with somebody next, I'm really hoping they don't tie in this alcohol and drug addiction and demon shit into it. I'm hoping this is over tomorrow. And since Sheamus beat Hardy at the last pay-per-view, Hardy's getting his win back here. He'll beat Sheamus in the bar fight and, get his win back and get his redemption and his revenge over Sheamus for all the shitty and pissy things that Sheamus has been doing to Hardy throughout this program. But I'm kind of over it. I want to see it end, and hopefully it can be blown off here with a pretty entertaining match, because it's one of what I guess is going to be 3 different or cinematic type matches here. At least I'm guessing. This could be a little simpler. It could just, follow the same format as like an APA bar brawl in Timmy White's place back in the day, or it could be really edited and pieced together and paired with music and effects and shit. Who knows? I think we're likely to see anything, and I just hope it's good, because the program and the angle has not been my favorite. We also have Seth Rollins taking on Rey Mysterio in an eye for an eye match. Again, we're likely to get some CGI, cinematic, horror show type of stuff here. You achieve victory by ripping out the eyeball of your opponent. Rey's already down an eye, so he's only got one left. He's working without a contract right now, unless he's signed one here in the last couple of days that we haven't heard about yet. So we're all guessing that he will be written off of TV here, and that's probably why they brought in Kevin Owens to rekindle his feud with Seth from WrestleMania, because if Rey doesn't re-sign and he leaves, Seth's got to have someone to work with next. And it feels like Owens is that person. He beat Seth this past Monday on Raw in the WrestleMania rematch. And I think tomorrow, whatever they do, I'm interested to see how they do it and how the PG product can get away with a match like this, especially if they use some fake blood or some effects. And like I said, it's probably going to be edited, and it's probably going to have a lot of production to the match, and I think that could be fun. So in the end, I think Rey gets blinded and he loses a second eye, and Seth Rollins rips it out and holds it in front of the camera, and it's got the veins and the juice dripping from it and the whole deal, and he wins the match. He's got to, right? He lost last week to Owens. He's got to win this thing here, and we'll see. And we'll see, too, if he actually takes out Rey Mysterio's eye. Like when you unmask a luchador, you carry their mask around as a trophy. Does he carry the eye around? Do they put the eye in a jar of like formaldehyde? That would be awesome. I'd be into that. What do you guys think? Either way, it should be entertaining, to say the least, whatever they do here. But you got to go Seth Rollins in that. And that leaves us with the Swamp match. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to be the main event or not. I guess not, since it's non-title. They might actually stick with Dolph and Drew. And plus, if you're going to have 3 cinematic type of matches with the bar fight, the eye match, and the Swamp match, you got to spread these out. So maybe the bar fight will come early. The Swamp match will be middle of the card, and maybe Rey and Seth main event. I don't know if you do Drew and Dolph in the main event. I don't know. You might, but I feel like Seth and Rey might be a good main event there. I don't know. Don't know the order of these matches, but anyway, the last match I have on my list, of course, is the Swamp match. This is not for the Universal title, and it looks like we got Classic Bray taking on Braun Strowman. And since it's a non-title match, I guess I'm going to go Bray Wyatt. If this was a title match, I would have picked Braun Strowman hands down. I would have said he would have beaten Funhouse Bray, then he would have beat Classic Bray, and I think that would then force Bray Wyatt to turn into a monster in order to defeat the monster, and that could happen at SummerSlam. But if Strowman wins that, how would you justify a third match when he's already won the other 2? So in terms of a SummerSlam title match, I almost think you have to have Bray Wyatt win here. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Wyatt will have many different forms. We might see Eric Rowan or Luke Harper references or something like that during the Swamp fight. I think that would be great. I definitely think we're going to see some entertaining stuff here. Really curious how this was shot. Really curious how long it took. You know, they kind of did an expose and a behind the scenes on the Boneyard stuff. I'm hoping we get something like that on the Swamp match one day, just to see, you know, how they put all this together. And it's going to be, I'm curious to see what it's going to look like tomorrow. But since it's non-title, I got to go Bray Wyatt, because now it's one win for Strowman, one win for Bray. Now you got the rubber match for the title at SummerSlam, Strowman versus The Fiend. That's what they got to do, right? So I'm going to predict Bray Wyatt to somehow win this match. And I think he'll likely get help from maybe the Fiend character. I would love to see the Fiend come up through the water, like rise up, you know, like a fucking Loch Ness Monster or something like that, up through the swamp and attack Strowman from behind or something like that, and put the mandible claw on him and then disappear. And then classic Bray Wyatt reappears to pin him or something like that. I'm guessing there's going to be a referee in the swamp with them. Do you win this match by pin or submission, or do you win by drowning your opponent, or how do you win? I'm guessing it's a pin, or maybe you have to give up or something. I don't know, but I'm guessing a referee is going to be out there in the swamp with these guys, and Bray Wyatt should get the win in order to justify and set up the SummerSlam match. That's my guess. But if you notice here, like I said, no titles are changing hands. Just to recap my predictions, I've got the New Day retaining the titles over Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro, although I want to be wrong on that. I want to see a title change here. I've got Apollo Crews retaining over MVP, Drew McIntyre retaining over Dolph Ziggler, Asuka retaining over Sasha, Bayley retaining over Nikki, Jeff Hardy beating Sheamus in the bar fight, Seth pulling out the other eye of Rey Mysterio and winning that match, and Bray Wyatt winning the Swamp match. So there you go. Those are my predictions in a nutshell. What do y'all think? Agree? Ooh, the Boogeyman. I'd be down with that. Aces and eights are near. Bully Ray, EC3, Anderson Gallows, more going to be good. Yeah, you're talking about Slammiversary. I know that's about to start right now. It is the top of the hour, so I should probably get out of here for those of you who want to watch Slammiversary. I believe it kicks off right now, because I believe it was 8 p.m. Eastern is the start time on that, and it's 5 p.m. here. So we've been going for 2 hours. We managed to cram in 2 hours of material. If you guys could help me before I leave, since we do have over 200 people here in the chat, if you could smash that thumbs up for me, I would appreciate it, and try to get those likes up. That would be fabulous, and I would be grateful. So anyway, let me cruise through here on the through the chat here, and we'll answer a couple of more things, and I'll get out of here for those of you who want to get your Slammiversary on. And don't forget, we'll be back up here tomorrow when Extreme Rules goes live. We will be live here on the YouTube channel reacting to the whole show. I think it might be a fun show to react to. So we're going to give that a shot for tomorrow, just to bring back an old school idea. I used to react to shit all the time here, and since this has some interesting matches, it might be fun to get my live reaction. So that's the plan tomorrow. I'll be drinking some beer and hanging out with you guys. I can't wait. That's true. I guess I'm not giving, Kevin, you're probably right about that. I'm not giving enough love to the women. I'm sitting here debating what will be the main event tomorrow. It could be Asuka and Sasha, especially if you get the title change. Because if you do, that match I would want to be in the main event. If you do the two women power trip thing, and you've already got Bayley successfully retaining earlier on in the show, and then Sasha beats Asuka, and then Bayley comes out to celebrate with her, and they got all 4 titles, and there's confetti and shit, that might be good. I'd actually be into that. So yeah, if I'd be into Asuka and Sasha main eventing, especially if Sasha wins. If Sasha's not going to win, I don't know. I'd probably put this match at the beginning or the earlier part of the card. But if she's winning, then yeah, you could be right about that, Kevin. Yeah, I didn't give the women enough love. If Seth loses, they'll call him Pirate Rollins. They might. I don't think he's going to lose, though. Ray, I'm sorry. Really? Kevin, thank you for that, guys. I'm sorry. The bar fight's been moved? I'm sorry. Okay, let's eliminate the bar fight. Well, shit. I didn't catch that. Did they announce that last night on Smackdown? I had no idea. I thought I just saw it here, still under the Extreme Rules graphic. Oh, man, I'm so sorry about that. I'm glad you guys let me know before I signed off here and looked like an idiot. So that leaves us with 7 matches now. All right? Preview. Yeah, there we go. I've only got 6. Strowman, Wyatt, McIntyre, Ziggler, Asuka, Sasha, Bayley, Nikki, Mysterio, Rollins, Apollo, and MVP. Why do I feel like I'm still missing one? Oh, they don't have the tag team match here listed. So, yeah, okay. Weird. Did they announce that last night? I'm guessing they did. All right. Well, whatever. I'm still picking Jeff Hardy to win. All right. I think that match being absent isn't going to affect my predictions at all. Huh. I had no idea. That's why you guys are here, to help correct me on shit, because I did not, after working last night, I did not want to come home and watch 2 hours of Smackdown. I watched the Riddle and AJ match, and that was it. I picked everything else up on YouTube. So, yeah, sorry about that, but I'm glad you guys corrected me. Yeah, so New Day retains, Cruz retains, Drew retains, Asuka, Bayley retain, Seth pulls out Ray's eye, and Bray Wyatt beats Strowman. All right, that's what I got. So what's the heel to babyface ratio there? I got face, 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 face. 4 faces, 3 heels. New Day, Cruz, McIntyre, and Asuka winning. Bayley, Rollins, and Bray winning. All right, it's pretty good. It's pretty good balance. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. Should be fun to react to tomorrow. I think the Swamp match is going to give us a lot of kooky shit. I'm really curious about the eyeball stuff. I want to see Dolph Ziggler's stipulation, and I want to see what the hell is going to go on with these women, because whatever happens tomorrow with Bayley and Sasha and Asuka, I think sets the table for SummerSlam. If Asuka remains champ, then I'm thinking maybe they push her towards Shayna Baszler, and we might still get that match. And then if not, I don't know what you do at SummerSlam. If Sasha and Bayley have all the belts, you got to put together a big match for SummerSlam. So what do you do? A rematch between Sasha and Asuka? And Bayley has her own championship match? Or do they defend them all? Do they do double duty? Do they have to defend the tags and then they both have to individually defend their world titles? They could do that at SummerSlam. I suppose that could work. But I feel like just for the purposes of SummerSlam and the matches to have and to be able to load up that card with a worthwhile pay-per-view, it's best to keep the belt on Asuka because that gives you another big match. Gives you 2 big women's matches instead of obviously just one that you'd have with the others. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, nice. You got one of... I still got to get myself some Broken Skull IPA. I'm glad you got some of that, Victor. That's cool. No, Chris, when I talked about that when I was going to go on the Jericho cruise, I was so excited to talk to Jericho, but unlike a lot of the other wrestlers, he was not as accessible. I even brought, it's behind me up there, I brought my TV title on the cruise with me because I kind of thought, and we met Jericho and got a picture with him and everything, but they really shuffled you in and out of there, where all the other wrestlers were kind of like hanging around. You could see him at the restaurant eating. You could see him at the elevators or up and down the stairs. They're all over the place. So running into one of them, if I would have seen Jericho by the elevators, the way I saw Hangman and Guevara and, Jurassic Express and guys like that, I'd be like, dude, sign my belt. But he wasn't around like that, and I didn't want to carry that damn thing with me, and I never got a chance to talk to him. But I had a conversation with his family, talked to his dad after the podcast. We were walking out. Ted Irvin was sitting right behind us. And as we're leaving, I kind of shake his hand, and he's like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, San Diego. And he's like, oh, my Jericho's brother-in-law. I guess his daughter's husband is from Carlsbad, which is right up the road here in Oceanside, and we talked a little bit about the area and then went into the atrium area and had a drink and talked with him some more, got a picture with him. So there was lots of guys that you could talk to, but Jericho, he was the MC. He was the man. He was he never stopped going. He had 3 wrestling matches, 5 podcasts. He met all 2,000 people that boarded the ship, so there was just no... And there was a couple places he was at. He turned up late at night in some bars and stuff, but you would have had to really catch him at the right time, and I was never able to discuss the big car accident in 1999. I'm dying to know if he remembers that. But one of these days, I'll get a chance to pin him down and ask him if he remembers that shit. And if I run into Edge and Christian, I'm going to ask them too. See if any of them remember that at all. Because I remember Christian picking up a girl on the side of the road. So don't tell his wife. But yeah, fun times, man. Fun times. All right, Bruce is telling us Slammiversary is off to a good start. So if you guys want to go check out Slammiversary, I'm going to allow you to do that now and get the hell out of here. I want to thank everybody for hanging out this afternoon. It was a lot of fun, as it always is here on the Winged Eagle. Don't forget, join me tomorrow. Live reaction to Extreme Rules will be going up at 4 p.m. here on the West Coast, 7 p.m. on the East. And then Monday night after Raw, we'll be back up here for a review. So you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy Slammiversary, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Be good. Peace.